Chapter 1105. In that case, kneel here for an entire day and night, Mother Bay said mercilessly. Mom. Sheener immediately wanted to plead, but Mother Bay stopped her. Do you want your husband to suppress you and not listen to you from now on? Or do you want him to act the same way he did this time and simply lie to achieve his goal? Sheener did not say another word. In that case, let him kneel here. After speaking, she led Sheener out of the ancestral hall. This is what you deserve. Father Bay sneered as he watched Bay Chendong kneel down again and leave the ancestral hall with his wife and daughter-in-law. Bay Chendong knelt down with his back straight. It seemed he wouldn't be able to get away with this, so he had to carry out the order. But deep down, he knew that since his parents did not say anything to Sheener, it meant that they would no longer object to their marriage. After returning to the living room, Mother Bay gestured for Sheener to sit on the sofa and said in a serious tone, We don't want to be hateful parents. Plus, I've never had high hopes for Bay Chendong. He's a complete jerk, and that's all he'll ever want in his life. He'll only win 2 awards in the entertainment industry and live a leisurely life. So, Sheener, originally, we hoped to find a capable daughter-in-law. At least, after we get old, someone would be able to take care of the Bay family. But, from the looks of it, we don't have much hope. His father and I won't make things difficult for you, but we won't let you get away with it so easily. Since you've married into the Bay family, you should at least try to make some contributions to the Bay family. Try your best. So after you've given birth, you'll be groomed by the family. Between the 2 of you, at least one of you should be our assistant. Only then will it be acceptable. Is this request too much? Sheener shook her head. Since he doesn't want to be down to earth and doesn't want to take over the family business, then you have to bear the burden. Take this opportunity to let the outside world know that you married into the Bay family. Although you don't have a family to rely on, you're not just a pretty face. This time, Sheener nodded her head. You're not forcing yourself, are you? In reality, Sheener had previously helped Hai Rui and was quite interested in management. So, if she was given the opportunity to learn more, she was more than willing to do so. Most importantly, in our industry, most kids around Bay Chendong's age have their own families on the outside. I'm sure you understand what I mean. But he only has one wife. Since the 2 of us have agreed, we can't tolerate his scheming. He won't. It would be best if he doesn't, but if he does, then everything you accept now will be the best capital for him in the future. Mother Bay was simply afraid that Sheener would be bullied. Although Sheener was easily manipulated by Bay Chendong, she wasn't a blank piece of paper to the public. At the very least, with a little training, he would definitely be able to achieve something. Dad, Mom, thank you. I know you have a history with Tongning, and I am Mo Ting's auntie. We share the same bloodline. Do you think I'm a man-eating tigress? After all, some things are only for the public to see. Once you truly enter the industry, you will understand, Mother Bay reminded. Okay, I will learn well. Since my grandson is fine, then take good care of him. I won't rely on Bay Chendong anymore. If the 2 of you don't move back, I will find an auntie to move in with you. That way, you won't have to worry too much. Okay, Sheener agreed to all of Mother Bay's requests. Originally, she was prepared to end up like those in romance novels and end up with a divorce and an abortion. Who would have thought? The Bay family weren't as difficult to get along with as she imagined. Mother Bay was right. Since she was Mo Ting's auntie, their family should be the same. Since the Mo family didn't deliberately make things difficult for others, why would the Bay family fall behind? Bay Chendong, let him kneel. If we don't teach him a lesson, he will try this again in the future. Although kneeling for a 30-something-year-old was a little embarrassing, for the sake of Sheener, Bay Chendong did not say a word. He obediently kneeled for an entire day and night without a single second of cheating. Originally, he thought he would be able to see Sheener again after enduring this ordeal. But Mother Bay told him she's already gone. All of a sudden, Bay Chendong didn't understand what Mother Bay meant. He tried to stand up, only to find that his legs were temporarily useless. Mom, you know my temper. I was born this way. To achieve my goals, I will do anything. In my world, there are no rules or boundaries. If Sheener wasn't feeling uncomfortable, I wouldn't have stepped out to apologize. After all, I didn't need your approval for our marriage. But I came, I kneeled, and helped you vent your anger. But that doesn't mean you can treat Sheener as you please. After hearing this, Mother Bay glared at him. If Sheener wasn't here, no one would stop you one day from killing someone. That would be terrible. At least, for the sake of Sheener, Bei Qindong was willing to compromise. This was proof of how important Han Sheener was to him. In the past, he would never change for anyone. But now he had Han Sheener. Sheener has already returned to your home. Mom, I'll remember how you lied to me this time. Sheener also promised to compensate you. So, I won't cause you any trouble. But you need to remember, from now on, whenever you get into trouble, Sheener will be the one taking the blame for you. So, it's best if you reconsider your decision. Was he using Xin, to restrain him? At this moment, Bei Qindong no longer felt restrained. In fact, as long as Sheener was by his side, nothing else mattered. Most importantly, he wanted to make sure Sheener didn't suffer as much as she did. Therefore, he rushed back home without stopping. As soon as he stepped through the front door, he saw Sheener drinking some soup. Bei Qindong quickly ran over and hugged her. I'm glad you're okay. What could possibly be wrong with me? Han Sheener asked. Hurry and sit down. Let me look at your knees. What did you promise, Mom? Bei Qindong sat down on a chair and rolled up his pants. Han Sheener leaned over and examined his knees as she replied, I promised Mom that after giving birth, I would intern at the Bei family home. I knew it. I had no choice. If you won't go, then I'll have to. Han Sheener replied. Since Han Sheener had already said this, what else could Bei Qindong do? How could he watch his lovely wife suffer like this? That would be strange. Although, from the beginning, he had always felt that he was the one who suffered the most from this deception. But for the sake of Sheener, it didn't matter. What he did wasn't important. Chapter 1106. Just like that, Han Sheener and Bei Qindong's relationship came to an end. Han Sheener would soon become a business genius and stand out in the business world. Of course, that was all for the future. Right now, the most important thing was the upcoming Fei Tian Awards. As one of the hottest names in the Fei Tian Awards, Tang Ning had already become one of the highlights. But this time, Mo Ting was also competing for an award. No one knew why he was interested in the Best Actor award. Perhaps, even Tang Ning couldn't provide an accurate answer. Before they set off, Mo Ting confirmed with Lu Che multiple times. This made Lu Che a little nervous, afraid that he would make a mistake. Everything was done behind Tang Ning's back. He simply hoped that he would give her a pleasant surprise when the time came. Although the winter red carpet was laid out in the cold wind, it still couldn't stop its heat. Dazzling stars shone from all sides of the red carpet. This was the biggest annual ceremony and banquet for the artists. All the artists prepared themselves. Even though they knew that because of Tang Ning and her husband, they wouldn't be the most eye-catching even if they gave it their all, the Ant Queen still had an empty spot for Best Actress. Although the little actress Coco performed exceptionally well, there were still a lot of things that she wasn't perfect. This was the only consolation for the other actors. But they had no choice but to accept it. After all, the Ant Queen's results were obvious to everyone, and they deserved it. So, as soon as Tang Ning and Mo Ting arrived, a bunch of people rushed to congratulate them. Was there a need to say it? The Fei Tian Awards was about to turn into a runway show for the cast of the Ant Queen. After arriving at the award ceremony, a lot of familiar faces appeared. Tang Ning nodded to each and every one of them as a form of greeting. In reality, whether Tang Ning received an award or not wasn't that important to her. All she wanted to know was whether Qiao San would receive the Best Director award. However, the award ceremony was a little long, and there were even performances in the middle. So, she waited until her palms were covered in cold sweat. She was afraid that the award that was supposed to go to Qiao San would suddenly change its mind. The Ant Queen, which was released at the end of the year, has been in the limelight. It was nominated for 6 awards, including Best Actor, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Best Cinematography. As the host spoke, the spotlight suddenly shone on Tang Ning and Mo Ting. At this time, Tang Ning was completely unprepared. I would like to ask Tang Ning, you are currently recognized as one of the best producers in the country, and many artists want to work with you. Did you expect to achieve what you have today? Tang Ning received the microphone from the host and replied in a deep voice, "I'm just sad that Xiao Sun won't be able to attend the awards ceremony with us. I believe that Xiao Sun will be very happy to see this from the sky. But I'm asking you, can't you think about yourself?" Hearing this, Tongning smiled and replied, "I'm fine right now. There's nothing to worry about." From Tongning's response, it was obvious that she was a little dispirited. She didn't want to answer the host's question half-heartedly and wanted the guest presenter to get on stage. The host understood what she was trying to say and laughed. "Fine, this is probably the most boring question and answer I've ever had. In that case, let's not waste any more time. Let's present the Best Director Award. Let's welcome our guest presenter." She wasn't interested in the editing, music, cinematography, or costumes. But the award that was about to be presented was what she wanted to know the most. Soon, the guest presenter walked onto the stage. After exchanging a few pleasantries, he turned to the big screen to look at the list of nominees. That's right, this was the award that Tongning wanted to know the most, the Best Director Award. And Xiao Sun, who she was looking forward to the most, was also one of the nominees. The winner of this year's Best Director Award is the director of Escape Room, Luo Fengzhou. Congratulations, Director Luo. However, as the screen froze and the spotlight paused, Tongning realized that the winner was not Xiao Sun. It wasn't. Seeing this, Mo Ting turned to look at Tongning. At that moment, Tongning was speechless, but there was an unconcealable sense of disappointment in her eyes. Here, we would like to clarify that because director Xiao Sun did not complete the entire film, the judges did not give him the highest score. But we will always remember Xiao Sun's name. We hope director Xiao Sun is well in heaven. The judge's decision was comprehensive and balanced. Don't feel bad. It's not something you can change. Mo Ting comforted. Tongning turned to look at Mo Ting and nodded her head. I thought, forget it. Since he's already gone, the judges would naturally be biased towards the living. I was too stubborn. It's such a shame that I missed out on such an important award. Mo Ting held onto Tongning's hand tightly without saying another word of comfort. However, Tongning had already lost interest in the later stages of the awards ceremony. I was also nominated. Don't you want to know if I'll win? President Mo, how embarrassing would it be if you didn't win? Tongning couldn't help laughing. Mo Ting also smiled. It seemed for Tongning, the Best Actor award was already in his bag. There was no doubt about it. Do you know why I have to apply for the Best Actor award? Under the flickering lights, Tongning looked at Mo Ting and shook her head confusedly. You don't usually care. Because this is the glory of the Ant Queen. Why should I give it to someone else for no reason? The Best Actor award is one of the most important awards. It is used to add points to the entire cast. Mo Ting explained. For me, taking home an award may be a boring thing to do. But for you, it's different. Best Actor. Your first movie has produced a Best Actor. Tongning stared at Mo Ting. Her eyes suddenly lit up with a fiery passion. So, do you still think me going on stage to receive this award is dispensable? Tongning shook her head. Mo Ting smiled as he tightened his grip on Tongning's hand. Not long after, it was time to hand out the Best Actor and Actress awards. Of course, because there was no suspense to this award, when the presenter called out Mo Ting's name, no one was surprised. They simply felt curious. Look, even the big boss of the entertainment industry is here to fight for a minor actor's award. Chapter 1107. Let's welcome President Mo onto the stage to receive his award and give his acceptance speech, the host said excitedly as he stood to one side. Mo Ting stretched out his arms and gave Tongning a hug before he stood up from his seat and walked onto the stage with a domineering aura to face all the artists. As for the presenter, because they knew of Mo Ting's status, the presenter was not a CEO of a company or a normal person. Instead, the presenter was a master from the art industry that matched Mo Ting's status. President Mo, please give your acceptance speech. Mo Ting held onto the trophy and walked over to the microphone. Perhaps it was because of the lighting, but he looked especially impressive on stage. Time seemed to be taking special care of this man. Even though he was 35 to 36 years old, he did not seem to have aged at all. Some people even described Mo Ting as devastatingly beautiful. From the looks of everyone below the stage, It seems like I've bullied someone by winning this award." Hearing Ting's words, the audience burst into laughter. This is the first award I've received in all my years in the industry. Although you all think I've bullied someone, it still feels heavy in my hands. Don't think that I'm stingy. Why can't I give this award to another professional artist? Because I can't. I know better than anyone how much humiliation my wife has endured to prepare and film this film. Even when she first asked Xiao-san to help her, she still had to stand on his island in the cold for an entire afternoon. That's why I can't give it to her. I won't say any other thank you words. I simply want to announce a few things. Firstly, The Ant Queen will be released in 13 countries, including the European and American markets. Our film is going to reach the international market. Secondly, I would like to officially announce the revival of Superstar Media. I know that this has always been my wife's wish. She wants to use Superstar Media to unearth more talented artists. Thirdly, I would like to invite Xiao-san to appear on stage. After hearing Ting's words, the entire venue was in an uproar. Xiao-san had passed away a long time ago, yet Ting wanted to invite him out? Was he joking? Especially Tongning. As soon as she heard this, she almost jumped out of her seat. But a moment later, Xiao Sin's daughter walked out from the backstage, pushing a wax figure of Xiao Sr. Everyone finally understood that Ting was referring to the wax figures. The wax figure was made according to Xiao Sin's figure. Ting had hired an Italian master to make it as realistic as possible. So, when Tongning saw the wax figure, she almost burst into tears. Xiao Sin looked like he was still alive and standing on the stage. At this time, Xiao Sin's daughter received the microphone from Ting and bowed to everyone. She then said, "I want to thank you for still remembering my father. But right now, I really want to say you are my queen. Because of you, the Ant Queen was created. It gave me the greatest comfort. It was like my father was still alive, and he would always be by my side." Actually, we've also heard from President Mo that Tongning doesn't care about her achievements at all. All she wants is for Xiao-san to receive everyone's approval. The host that had been standing to one side suddenly said, "So, since we've gotten to this point, let's change the order of the other most important award of the night. Since its inception, the Fei Tian Awards has always rewarded those that put their heart into their work. To pass on this belief, the committee has decided to award director Xiao-san with a Lifetime Achievement Award. He wants to motivate all of the living film and television people here so that the industry can move towards a better future." That night, Tongning sat below the stage, feeling extremely excited. Xiao Sin's efforts had finally paid off. At this moment, Ting knew that this was what Tongning wanted the most. So, the couple looked into each other's eyes as their emotions flowed out. At the same time, we also hope that Tongning can produce an even better film so that the audience can enjoy it. While we're at this point, how are the preparations for the Ant Queen 2 coming along? Tongning's eyes were red, but she let out a laugh. Everyone knew that she was crying tears of joy. Come, Tongning, come on stage." Hearing the host's invitation, Tongning shook her head. "It's fine. This night belongs to everyone. I hope everyone can enjoy it, and not just me." In that case, don't you have anything to say to President Mo, who has prepared these 3 gifts for you? Let's talk about it in private at home." Tongning replied naturally. The host nodded her head and did not make things difficult for Tongning. She then turned to look at Ting. "President Mo, since you've taken the award as the leader of the industry, do you have anything to say to everyone? Tonight, I'll just be an actor and accompany my wife. I won't be pressuring anyone." Ting replied straightforwardly. "Ha! Thank you for letting us off the stage." The host laughed heartily. The host smiled as he escorted Ting and Xiao Sin's daughter off the stage. However, just as Ting approached Tongning, she immediately hugged him tightly. "What's wrong? You always know what I want," Tongning said as she sobbed. "I feel like the most rewarding thing in my life is marrying you. I love to see you moved." The couple hugged each other tightly, causing quite a few people to be envious. Meanwhile, in front of the TV, there was one person staring at the couple hatefully. How could these 2 great people refuse to take my daughter in? As a result, I'll never be able to see my daughter again, and I don't even know if she's alive or dead. Tongning, I can't help but blame you. You could have easily saved my daughter's life. Across the TV, Liang Yongyu clenched her fists in anger. But she knew that she was no match for Tongning. First, she needed to give birth to a son and stabilize her position in the family. We have plenty of time in the future. We're bound to see each other one day. This was perhaps Tongning's most glorious moment. But the Ant Queen's success didn't stop there. After the film was released in the US and Europe, it caused quite a stir. How could an Asian produce a sci-fi film of this level? Was it fake? Was it cheating? The foreigners had their doubts. Chapter 1108. Foreign film experts even came up with technical analysis and research to expose, provoke, and ridicule Beijing's sci-fi films. They also questioned Tongning, but Tongning did not respond at all. Meanwhile, the post-production team that she led officially established a post-production company called Glory. Above all, Glory and Superstar Media were combined under Hai Rue. Because of the exposure of the post-production team, Glory received offers from many film and television companies. Some even offered them astronomical sums of money, but they all rejected them. Firstly, they helped Tongning because of Tongning and Xiao Sen's dedication to sci-fi. Secondly, their technology was now exclusive to the Ant Queen. In other words, they would only work on the Ant Queen. Thirdly, if they wanted to continue improving, they needed time to learn. So, they weren't willing to waste their energy on other films. At least for the time being, their main focus was on the Ant Queen. Most importantly, no matter who they worked with, it wouldn't be easier than working with Tongning. After all, Tongning had already provided them with the best benefits, the best treatment, and the best glory. However, just as the Ant Queen was supposed to strike while the iron was hot, Tongning once again disappeared for the public's eye. She had to start preparing for the Ant Queen 2. Without Xiao Sun, the Ant Queen 2 was going to be difficult to film. Tongning knew better than anyone. A little while later, news of the Ant Queen winning an award began to spread overseas. But Mo Ting sent people to every award ceremony. This wasn't because Tongning had become arrogant, but because domestic sci-fi films had been kneeling in front of foreign films for many years. It wasn't easy for her to stand up again. So, she needed to show an attitude and build the confidence of the domestic film industry. When it came to an overseas award, they had to be neither indifferent nor enthusiastic. I would like to invite Senior Long to appear in the Ant Queen 2. I want to add elements of Kung Fu into the film. As one of the symbols of our country, I also want to incorporate it into a sci-fi film. The Ant Queen was about a father and daughter. The Ant Queen 2 Foot is about a teacher and student. What do you think, Ting? Seeing that Tongning was getting more and more familiar with film production, Mo Ting laughed. It seems you have a lot of resources to use this time. I won't be able to do anything. Are you kidding me? Tongning put down her pen and paper and turned to look at Mo Ting. Do you think I can write a complete script? Mo Ting thought for a moment and nodded his head. Now that I think about it, I do have some use. Story is the essence of a movie. No matter how realistic the post-production effects are, the only thing that will retain the audience is the exciting storyline. You can also learn to write. If you want me to memorize my lines, I can do it. But if you want me to think of such a huge structure, it's quite difficult for me, Tongning admitted honestly. I'm not like you, I don't know everything. President Mo was so pleased with himself that he naturally let his wife lead him by the nose. As for the director, although Tongning had considered letting Zaheo take over, she wasn't sure if he would be willing to take on Xingyan's role. The public is waiting for you to recruit actors. Other than Uncle Long, do you have any other candidates? I won't openly recruit anyone, Tongning replied. I don't want to hold an audition. I won't invite any new celebrities or newcomers. At least, before they show me their acting skills, I won't take another look at them. In that case, take your time and observe. Just ignore other people's recommendations. Like this, Tongning began to prepare for the Ant Queen 2. However, a few months later, the Zhai family's wedding invitation arrived at Mo Ting's office. President, the Zhai family specifically sent this invitation to invite you and the madam. I never expected that Liang Yongyu would actually get what she wanted and marry into a rich family. I heard that she's pregnant again. Apparently, it's a boy. She went for a checkup 3.5 months ago, and as soon as she found out the gender of the child, her status skyrocketed. As Lu Che spoke, he placed the invitation on Mo Ting's desk. Special instructions? Mo Ting looked at the invitation with interest. Liang Yongyu still holds a grudge against you for back then. Are you referring to the time Liang Yongyu knelt down and begged for help? This time, Mo Ting did not respond. But Lu Che could already guess the answer from Mo Ting's silent expression. If this was really the case, then the grudge between the two of them was going to run deep. If Liang Yongyu was stubborn, she would have assumed that Mo Ting and Tongning caused her to lose her daughter. Now that she had a boy and her identity was different, it was time to settle the score. Are you going to the wedding or not? The Zhai family and the Bei family have business dealings. Since the Zhai family specifically sent me an invitation, I naturally have to go, Mo Ting replied. Let's see what Liang Yongyu wants to do first. Since she's already caused trouble, it's best to resolve it as soon as possible. It's better than planting a bomb in the ground. Okay, I'll let the madam know. Lu Che nodded. Liang Yongyu's daughter was currently being taken good care of. If the Zhai family found her and she had a son, then her daughter's life would no longer be important. A little while later, Tongning received the news and laughed. I never thought there would be a follow-up to this incident. Liang Yongyu was helpless at the time. She must be holding a grudge against the president and the madam. Okay, let's see how she plans to get her revenge. Tongning took Liang Yongyu's matter to heart. After all, she never let her guard down against her enemies. In order to climb into a rich family, Liang Yongyu gave birth to a daughter. Yet, she wanted someone to raise her daughter for her. Yet, if someone didn't agree, she would hold a grudge? What kind of logic was this? Soon, news of the Zhai family holding the wedding of the century spread throughout the industry. It was said to be the most expensive wedding in history and was estimated to cost over $100 million. No wonder Liang Yongyu was desperate to marry into the Zhai family. Now, she probably felt that all the pain she had suffered before was worth it, right? Who would have thought Second Master Zhai was indeed generous and generous? But one could imagine how much help Liang Yongyu's son would be for him to inherit the family business. Perhaps the Zhai family were afraid that Tongning and Mo Ting wouldn't attend. So Second Master Zhai personally paid them a visit to apologize. Using the excuse that she had previously visited Hai Rui's office to ask for Mo Ting, she used the excuse of apologizing to Mo Ting. President Mo, I'm really sorry about last time. But I've been too busy, so I haven't had a chance to make it up to you. So, you definitely need to attend my wedding and bring Mrs. Mo and your precious son. Of course. Mo Ting replied with a deeper meaning. He wanted to see what trouble Liang Yongyu, the new rich Mrs. Mo, would dare to cause Tongning, as long as she dared. Chapter 1109. Liang Yongyu's daughter was currently staying at the home of a physics professor at Beijing University. Because of his wife's frequent miscarriages, they had already lost 3 children. In order to fulfill his wife's wish, the professor offered to take care of the child after hearing about the little girl. He also promised that he wouldn't let the Zhai family find her. The couple were already in their 40s, but they still took good care of the little girl. They treated her like their own child. Although they weren't as wealthy as the Zhai family, they still tried their best to give the little girl the best life they could. As soon as Tongning heard about this news, she felt relieved. At least, the child wouldn't have to worry about food or clothing for the rest of her life. As for Liang Yongyu's attacks, she would deal with it as she saw fit. What was a wealthy wedding? It was something that everyone knew about. In fact, it was something that easily involved millions of people. This was a little too ostentatious, but it suited Liang Yongyu's current status. Everything that the Zhai family spent on her today, they would be able to earn it back at the wedding. As she looked at the news, Tongning couldn't help but laugh. She had a feeling that Liang Yongyu's life from now on would be filled with endless suffering. But of course, Liang Yongyu didn't feel that way. In that case, She had no choice but to go and see for herself what she had prepared for the wedding. Soon, it was the day of Di Liang's wedding. As it was already summer, Tongning was dressed in a black off-shoulder dress that hugged her perfect figure. Afterwards, she knelt down and helped her two sons adjust their suits. Strictly speaking, this was the first time Tongning and Mo Ting had brought the twins to a public event. Since the Zhai family had invited them, Tongning had no choice but to accept. Mo Zishi was a typical child and easy to coax. With a simple piece of candy, he stood up obediently and let Tongning help him get dressed. On the other hand, Mo Zichen was like an old man. Although his movements were slow, he still knew how to dress himself at his age. No wonder the couple had to take their son to the hospital for a checkup. Seeing this, Tongning looked at Mo Zichen. "Do you need mommy's help?" She had a feeling that Mo Zichen would understand. Mo Zichen shook his head. He then looked at the bow tie on Mo Zishi's neck and fiddled with it on his own neck. Seeing this, Tongning couldn't help but chuckle. It didn't take long before Mo Ting returned home. Seeing the mother and sons had already changed, he entered the cloakroom. 10 minutes later, "Since you're done packing, let's go." Tongning originally wanted to carry the children, but Mo Ting stopped her. The couple held on to one child, each as they walked out of the house. "You get a new car?" Tongning looked at the new car parked in front of her home and asked confusedly, "Is there a need to do this?" "It's my first time bringing these two rascals out. Comfort is the most important thing. No matter how comfortable he wanted, he didn't need a limited edition Rolls-Royce, right?" In reality, President Mo simply wanted to boost his low-key wife's prestige. She was used to being frugal and never acted like a superstar. But today was different. When you attend the wedding today, your mission is to steal the bride's limelight. Tongning giggled as she glared at Mo Ting coquettishly. The wedding was held in a 7-star hotel. The hall that could hold over 10,000 people was decorated with a sea of fresh flowers. According to rumors, these roses were flown in from France, and there were over 100,000 roses used. A wedding like this was every girl's dream. Judging by the looks of envy on the faces of the socialites, it was easy to imagine how much they wanted it. Many big names were gathered inside and outside of the industry. As the Zhai family was also involved in the entertainment industry, many big names were fighting to be present. Soon, a brand new white Rolls-Royce arrived at the entrance of the hotel. As the Mo family stepped out of the car, they attracted a lot of attention. Although Liang Yongyu was already dressed in jewels as she greeted the guests, and the diamonds on her body were already eye-catching enough, no one expected that Tongning's appearance would attract the attention of so many guests. As a result, everyone's attention was quickly diverted away from Liang Yongyu. Tongning brought two sons at once. Is she purposely provoking Liang Yongyu? You can't blame her. After all, having two sons in a lifetime isn't something that normal people can have. Look at Tongning's twins. They're so handsome. Liang Yongyu looked at the attention of the guests and felt a sense of resentment rise from the bottom of her heart. So, after Tongning sat down with the twins, Liang Yongyu approached Tongning and said, "Mrs. Mo, can I have a word with you?" Tongning looked down at the twins in her arms and then looked up at Liang Yongyu. "Can't you wait until after the wedding? After all, I need to take care of two kids. It's not convenient. I'll wait for you in the waiting room on the 3rd floor. I hope you can come over as soon as possible." So, was Liang Yongyu forcing Tongning to see her? Tongning ignored her. At this time, Mo Ting walked out of the bathroom and noticed something was wrong with Tongning's expression. So he asked, "What's wrong?" "Liang Yongyu asked me to see her on the 3rd floor. Who does she think she is?" Mo Ting laughed. "There's no need to pay attention to her. What do you think? Are the kids afraid of strangers? Look at how much fun Mo Zishi was having." Although Mo Zichen did not say a word, it wasn't hard to tell that he was used to the atmosphere. "I saw a lot of familiar faces in the industry. Help me say hello to them as a form of courtesy. It's not convenient for me to walk around with the two rascals here." "Okay, I'll be right back." Mo Ting stood up and disappeared into the crowd of guests. Since this was Liang Yongyu's wedding, she couldn't do anything too obvious. After all, she didn't want to ruin her own wedding. Plus, Tongning wasn't someone that was easily bullied. So, Mo Ting was a lot less worried. It didn't take long before someone approached Tongning. Ning Jia, can I take a photo with the two babies? They're so cute. Tongning smiled and replied, if you don't want to announce it to the public, I have no reason to reject you. After all, I want the twins to keep a low profile. I won't announce it to the public. Besides, the kids change every day and you and President Mo protect them well. The media won't find out about it. The woman was a woman in her early 20s. Her eyes were clear and innocent. She didn't seem to have any ulterior motives. So, Tongning did not reject her. With Tongning's approval, the woman knelt down and pinched Mo Zichen's cheek. But Mo Zichen was obviously not happy about a stranger touching him. Chapter 11:10. Before Tongning showed up, Liang Yongyu returned from the waiting room to find Tongning sitting with a bunch of rich women discussing parenting techniques. Her heart was filled with hatred. Tongning had indirectly harmed her daughter, yet she had the cheek to tell others about her experience in taking care of a child. Yongyu, where did you go? Second Master Zhai looked around and couldn't find Tongning, so he looked at her accusingly. I took you to meet a few important people. Liang Yongyu looked at Tongning amongst the crowd. Although she wanted to tear her fake face to shreds, she had to at least get through the wedding and let Tongning enjoy herself for a little longer. She was going to come back and make trouble for Tongning after the wedding ceremony was over. Tongning could sense Liang Yongyu's vicious gaze from afar, but she did not respond. After all, she also understood that most people in this world were more willing to blame others, and very few people would reflect on themselves. Ningjia, I feel like this year's bride isn't very friendly towards you. The woman who was taking a photo with Zishi and Zhai Yunsheng happened to capture the way Liang Yongyu looked at Tongning. So, she handed the phone to Tongning and asked, Look, Tongning did not pick up the phone. She simply smiled. I think you're mistaken. I've never met Mrs. Zhai before. I think so too. Tongning took care of the children as she chatted with the people around her about the Ant Queen. Before she knew it, it was already time for the wedding ceremony. Mo Ting returned to the mother and sons and pulled them into his arms. Obviously, this scene was a lot better than the one on stage. This wedding looks grand on the surface. Yesterday, I even saw Second Master Zhai entering a nightclub with a beautiful woman. Keep your voice down. Everyone knows that the couple got married because they had a child. This little vixen got married because she's pregnant. So, no matter how extravagant the wedding is, it's just a show on the outside. It's better to watch Tongning's family of 4. Do you think Tongning brought 2 sons here to provoke Liang Yongyu? Ha ha! She has 2 sons. She can't possibly bring only one of them here. It would be giving her face if he came. Naturally, the banquet was filled with gossip. After all, everyone in the industry knew how Liang Yongyu ended up in Second Master Zhai's bed. Although she was now the wife of a wealthy family, she couldn't hide her lowly background. A marriage like this was destined to be a tragedy from the first day of marriage, so it was no wonder that others didn't think highly of it. On the other hand, Tongning and Mo Ting were perfect examples of what a rich family should do. After their flash marriage, they were ridiculed by everyone. But now, they already had 3 children and were a famous loving couple who were inseparable. So, if they had to choose between a luxurious wedding and a loving husband, everyone would choose the latter. That's why, even though most women were envious of the extravagant decorations, they weren't envious of Liang Yongyu. However, Liang Yongyu did not think this way. She was already a member of the Zhai family. Even if she divorced Second Master Zhai right now, she would still be able to take half of his assets. So, why would she care about feelings? After all, money was the right path. The luxurious and emotional ceremony came to an end with Second Master Zhai's deep kiss. Afterwards, it was time for the newlyweds to toast. Meanwhile, Liang Yongyu spent almost 20 minutes changing into a luxurious cocktail dress. The first thing she did was drag her husband over to Second Master Zhai and say, Hubby, do you remember the last time I took her daughter out on a trip? At that time, I accidentally lost my daughter, and President Mo and Mrs. Mo helped me take care of her. Second Master Zhai couldn't understand why Liang Yongyu would mention this matter at a place like this, so he pretended not to understand. But Liang Yongyu continued, "How could you forget something so important? It's because Mr. and Mrs. Mo still haven't found our daughter." After hearing Liang Yongyu's words, Second Master Zhai immediately tried to drag his wife away. However, Liang Yongyu stopped him. "That night, my husband and I had an argument. In a moment of anger, I carried our daughter away and placed her in front of President Mo's car. Afterwards, President Mo rescued her and took her to the hospital. I'm very grateful to the two of you for what you did. But I beg you to take care of my daughter for a little while longer. At that time, we had an argument and I had nowhere to go. It was freezing outside, but you refused to let me. This kindness has left a deep impression on me." After hearing this, everyone understood what Liang Yongyu was trying to say. Was she taking advantage of the fact that she had married into a wealthy family to get back at them? Liang Yongyu was too young, so she didn't understand what was going on. Her words simply made everyone think that she was insensible. How could she abandon her daughter because of an argument? Then, when she begged for someone to take care of her daughter, they refused, so she held a grudge. How good must this weirdo be in bed for the Zhai family to tolerate such a brainless woman? "My poor daughter." "So, why haven't you seen your daughter yet?" Tongning asked. "Don't tell me you abandoned your daughter somewhere again." Mrs. Zhai, today is your wedding day, so I don't want to make things difficult for you. But you shouldn't blindly push your luck. Otherwise, if things get out of hand, no one will be happy about it. Tongning, if it wasn't for your selfishness, my daughter wouldn't have gone missing." After hearing this, Tongning pointed to Liang Yongyu with her chin and said to Second Master Zhai, "Can't you control your woman properly? She's causing a ruckus at your wedding. It seems she doesn't want the Zhai family to have an easy time." Tongning, you're so scheming. You're good at sowing discord. You're indeed worthy of your title as a best actress. Liang Yongyu, have you had enough? Don't you know what occasion we're having today? It's precisely because it's an important occasion that I want to see if you're going to help me or not. Liang Yongyu said like she was making a bet. Are you going to help me or an outsider? Don't forget, I'm carrying your son in my stomach. I'm not going to ask for anything else. All I want is for Mrs. Mo to apologize to me for what happened in the past. Let's make a clean slate. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for me to take this lying down." Tongning scoffed. Obviously, she had overestimated Liang Yongyu. "Liang Yongyu, look at the occasion. Our daughter is also yours," Liang Yongyu said coldly. "Don't forget why we don't know where she is right now. I simply want the person that wronged me to apologize to me. What's wrong with that?" Chapter 11:11. Can't you see what kind of occasion this is? Stop fooling around. If word of this gets out, the Zhai family won't benefit either. Second Master Zhai hugged Liang Yongyu tightly, but failed to take her away. Liang Yongyu pushed her husband's hand away and glared at Tongning. "I don't care. I'm going to make Tongning apologize to me today." In this way, she could continue her performance. "Did you take the wrong medicine? If she had taken in my daughter for a little longer, even if it was just for a little longer, my daughter wouldn't have gone missing." Liang Yongyu yelled as she pointed to Tongning's nose. Everyone in the wedding hall turned to look at them. "Are you crazy?" "I'm crazy." Liang Yongyu pushed her husband away and placed her hands on the dining table. She then glared at Tongning coldly. "Either apologize to me or return my daughter to me. You're always pretending to be kind and loving to help others in the industry. Is it all fake?" "Tongning, I knelt down and begged you. But I never expected that you would turn a blind eye to it. You're amazing. Look, if you had taken my daughter back then, my daughter would be able to go home now, so it's you. It's you who caused my daughter to go missing. It's you." Liang Yongyu threw caution to the wind as her questions were sharp and powerful. Just like that, she questioned Tongning why she didn't take her daughter in. "Why?" Tongning stopped emoting from speaking and asked, "Why should I take in your daughter? Did I make you give birth to 2 daughters in order to marry into a rich family? Did I tell you to leave your daughter by my husband's car? Why should I take care of the child you gave birth to? Are you my descendant? What's my relationship with you?" "Liang Yongyu, it's my duty not to help you. Now, I'm sure that I made the right decision back then. As for why your daughter disappeared, you should ask yourself, where did you dump her? Mrs. Mo, please don't say any more. Second Master Zhai was afraid that if he continued to speak, the Zhai family's secret would be exposed. Who gave you the right to insult my wife like this? And Mo Ting, who had been silent the entire time, finally spoke up. How shameless are the Zhai family? I want to see it today. The Zhai family doesn't have the right to speak in Beijing. Since you invited us here, don't act like you're rich and powerful. Don't you know how powerful the Zhai family is? Either you apologize to my wife right now, or you explain everything about the child today. Anyway, there are thousands of people here. As soon as he heard Mo Ting's threat, Second Master Zhai immediately said, President Mo, don't get angry. In front of everyone, your woman wants my wife to apologize to her? Did I hear that right? Don't you know about the Zhai family? Do you know how to control women? If you don't, I can teach you a lesson. At this moment, no one said a word. To be exact, they were all intimidated by Mo Ting's aura. He didn't appear to be agitated, but his words were so oppressive that they couldn't breathe. Especially towards the Zhai family. Every word was filled with a sense of threat. As a result, the Zhai family's parents immediately rushed over and tried to calm them down. President Mo, I'm sorry, but can you give us some face and let this matter go? I can't. No one has ever dared to yell at my wife in front of me. Mo Ting had no intention of backing down. Let's resolve the matter regarding the child today. Otherwise, if Liang Yongyu continues to bite onto my wife, how am I supposed to argue with her? President Mo, we still have business dealings with the Bei family. You should know that you have business dealings with the Bei family, not the Mo family. Mo Ting yelled. When the Zhai family is able to do business with me, then you can use this trick to beg for mercy. What do you think about my wife? She doesn't look like someone that could be easily bullied. Huh? The Zhai family were helpless as they glared at Liang Yongyu. But they had no choice. Mo Ting had already suggested it. If they didn't do as he said, the matter would only get worse. So, Father Zhai directly bowed and apologized on behalf of the couple. I'm sorry, President Mo and Mrs. Mo. I didn't teach my child well. Fine, I'll resolve it. Do you think I'm afraid of the Mo family? Liang Yongyu yelled loudly as Father Zhai bowed. Do you want to get a divorce right after getting married? Second Master Zhai threatened. But this trick obviously didn't work because there was no fear in Liang Yongyu's eyes. Fine, I'll get a divorce. I'm going to tell everyone about how the Zhai family tortured my daughter to death. Everyone, before I got pregnant with this baby boy, I already had 2 daughters. When I was 20 years old, I followed this bastard. But because I didn't give birth to a son, my older daughter was tortured to death and my younger daughter almost died at the hands of this family. So, I carried my daughter away and asked Tangning for help. But I never expected that she would leave me to die. Since things have already gotten to this point, I might as well not get married anymore. I'll just abort the child later. But the Zhai family are too much of a bully. No one expected that Liang Yongyu would play a trick on the Zhai family at a place like this. Although scandals like this were no longer a secret among the rich and powerful, for Liang Yongyu to expose them in front of so many people, it was a huge loss of face. Liang Yongyu, do you want to die? Ever since my daughter went missing, I've wanted to die. After seeing Liang Yongyu's act, Tangning finally understood her true intentions. Who said that this woman was brainless? Liang Yongyu was deliberately using the opportunity to expose the Zhai family. Liang Yongyu wanted to humiliate the Zhai family at the wedding. If they got a divorce, they would get a share of the Zhai family's assets. With the addition of the child and the lawyer, Liang Yongyu would probably get even more. This was a good idea. Only an act like this, killing 2 birds with 1 stone, was worthy of such a luxurious event. Otherwise, Tangning would have looked down on the retarded Liang Yongyu. The Zhai family obviously didn't expect that Liang Yongyu would go all out. Second Master Zhai looked at Liang Yongyu in shock. He was completely speechless. Zhai Lintian, let's get a divorce. Zhai Lintian did not say a word as he threw a slap across Liang Yongyu's face, causing her to fall to the ground. As soon as Zhai Lintian lost his temper, Tongming realized that Liang Yongyu had found another opportunity to complain. As expected, "Stomach, my stomach, can anyone save me?" Chapter 11:12. As a result of Zhai Lintian's actions, Liang Yongyu ended up having a miscarriage. A grand wedding was turned into a mess by the bride, and the Zhai family was completely humiliated. No, the Zhai family's true loss was yet to come. After all, Zhai Lintian's actions in front of everyone meant that Liang Yongyu would receive a bigger share of the family's assets. By dragging Tongming into the mess, she would be able to humiliate the Zhai family and take their money. This was exactly what Liang Yongyu wanted to do. Outside the hospital, Zhai Lintian heard Liang Yongyu's cries to the media. He wanted so badly to sew her mouth shut. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have been so merciful. The Zhai family tortured my daughter to death, and Tongming did nothing to save her. I will deal with them through the legal system, Liang Yongyu cried as she answered the media's questions. But the Zhai family had no way of controlling the situation. After all, Liang Yongyu had caused a scene at the wedding. Afterwards, the Zhai family expressed their apologies to Mo Ting and Tongming. "We're sorry, President Mo. As you can see, the Zhai family was set up, and we're currently in a terrible situation. I hope we didn't cause too much trouble for you and Mrs. Mo. The reason why Liang Yongyu dared to do what she did was definitely because someone was guiding her. The Zhai family should be careful," Mo Ting reminded. "Especially tell Second Master Zhai not to be angered by Liang Yongyu again. Otherwise, he will continue to fall into her trap." "Thank you, President Mo, for letting bygones be bygones. No matter how big of a grudge they had, it wasn't worth it, especially since the Zhai family was currently being set up by Liang Yongyu." Tongming told him not to hold the wedding incident against her. After all, the Zhai family was currently in the middle of a storm. "But Mrs. Mo's reputation, take care of the Zhai family instead," Mo Ting said. In other words, he didn't need to worry about his woman. This time, Tongming was in an awkward situation due to Liang Yongyu's involvement. Everyone knew that she hadn't done anything wrong. Yet, in Liang Yongyu's mouth, she was called a sinner because she didn't take her daughter in. Including the argument at the wedding, there were also different versions of the incident. It was obvious that the people in the industry had seen the incident as a joke. But the thing that made them the most frustrated was the fact that Liang Yongyu had used them as a stepping stone. Liang Yongyu actually dared to step on Tongming's head. Think of a way to fight back. Everyone is laughing at you for being the wave on the beach. Long Jie heard some gossip and felt a little upset. This woman actually dared to step all over your head. If this is her way of getting revenge on me because of what happened in the past, then she has succeeded, Tongming smiled. This pisses me off, very pisses me off. How long do you think the Zhai family will let someone like Liang Yongyu live? Right now, we're just waiting for the limelight to blow over. Once no one pays attention to Liang Yongyu's matter, it won't be long before she dies. She has indeed been in the limelight for once, but I'm afraid her days from now on won't be easy. Long Jie, find an opportunity to keep an eye on Liang Yongyu. Make sure she doesn't leave Beijing. Perhaps she has already seen through my plan and will choose to attack me head-on. Indeed, Tongming's guess was right. In order to keep the peace, the Zhai family privately approached Liang Yongyu to negotiate with her. But Liang Yongyu directly offered a sky-high price of $1 billion. Although the Zhai family felt that Liang Yongyu had gone too far, compared to taking half of Zhai Lintian's wealth, $1 billion was already considered gentle. So, the day after Liang Yongyu received the $1 billion, she cried in front of the media. She claimed that she dreamed of her daughter telling her not to go against the Zhai family. So she listened to her daughter and cut all ties with the Zhai family. All she took was a small sum of money. By doing this, Liang Yongyu established a confident and daring personality in front of the media. She even boasted shamelessly in front of the media. I hate money the most. I simply wanted to know if there was true love between the rich and the powerful. But I lost the gamble. From now on, I will enter the film industry with all my assets. I feel that a woman should have her own career. So, the first thing she did after entering the film industry was announce that she was going to film the Ant Queen special death. As soon as this news was released, everyone saw through her intentions. Fuck, this is another person trying to ride on the popularity. Why doesn't this piece of trash just call it the Ant Queen too? Although we won't watch a piece of trash like this, the thought of it lowering the average standard makes me angry. Can't the government give the exclusive rights to sci-fi films to Tongning? We can't let these evildoers wreak havoc on the world. But no matter how much the public ridiculed her, Liang Yongyu got the popularity that she wanted. She knew that she had offended the Zhai family, so she often appeared in front of the cameras to ensure her safety and prevent the Zhai family from seeking revenge. Plus, her film was called The Ant Queen's Special Death. The word Ant Queen wasn't exclusive to Tongning, so it wasn't a problem for her to use it. What made the public think that Liang Yongyu was smart was the fact that she directly hired a top-notch celebrity. After all, she had a lot of money. That way, it was possible for her to compete with Tongning. But the public couldn't help but sigh at how unlucky Tongning was to provoke such a shameless idiot. Everyone wanted to suck a mouthful of her blood. First, there was the fake Ma Weiwei. Now, there was Liang Yongyu. Just because Tongning didn't want to take her daughter in, did she plan to continue clinging to her? Should we change the name of the Ant Queen? Long Jie was disgusted by the name of Liang Yongyu's film. She didn't want to have anything to do with it. Why should we change it? Besides, even if you want to change it, Liang Yongyu can easily find a similar one. Do you think you can avoid it? Tongning laughed. I know, I'm just disgusted. Everyone has already acknowledged your sci-fi film, but I hope the Beijing government can do something about it. Mo Ting had already thought of this. Although he couldn't request for the film's name to be changed, he wanted the entire world to know about Tongning's film. That way, even if Liang Yongyu tried to scam others, the public wouldn't have to worry about being deceived. Especially not in the international market. I've decided to establish a Tangkor film agency that will be responsible for the PR of your film. I want to leave a Tangkor logo on the promotional materials for the Ant Queen. That way, even if someone tries to leech off of your film, the public will simply label it as a rubbish film, and it will have nothing to do with us. As for Liang Yongyu, let's keep her for now. I want to see how effective this is. In other words, Mo Ting wanted Liang Yongyu to linger on for a few more days. Chapter 11:13. Wouldn't that be too high profile? As soon as Tongning thought about how her name would appear on the big screen in the future, she felt it was a little too high profile. You've created a film that shocked everyone, and everyone loves it. So, no matter what you do, it won't be too much. Mo Ting pulled Tongning into his embrace and breathed in her peaceful scent. From now on, Liang Yongyu won't be the only one. There will be even more imitations that will ride on the popularity and consumers. This is what we need to be prepared for. In that case, I'll listen to you. Tongning nodded. After being tortured by Liang Yongyu for a few days, the Zhai family's horizons had been opened. They never imagined that there would be someone more shameless than them. After being asked for $1 billion, Second Master Zhai appeared in front of Tongning and Mo Ting again. He looked extremely dispirited. Now that all the power in the family had been handed over to his siblings, he was just a carefree person that spent his days wandering around. But because he had nothing better to do, Zhai Lintian couldn't let go of his hatred towards Liang Yongyu. So today he paid a visit to Mo Ting and Tongning. But to his surprise, Tongning and Mo Ting appeared extremely calm. They didn't seem to care about Liang Yongyu's provocation at all. President Mo, Mrs. Mo, you sure are magnanimous. Even after being stepped on by Liang Yongyu, you're not angry at all. I'm impressed. There's no need to get angry over something like that. Tongning replied. By the way, if the Zhai family didn't value men over women, things wouldn't have ended up like this. So, Second Master Zhai, you shouldn't feel wrong that you've ended up in this situation. After hearing Tongning's words, Zhai Lintian lowered his head and laughed. I admit that I was wrong. That's why I'm currently being punished. But what about Liang Yongyu? I've long heard that Mrs. Mo is meticulous and wise. So, I like to learn how to push someone beyond redemption. Tongning understood the hidden meaning behind Zhai Lintian's words, so she remained silent for a few seconds. She then lifted her head and looked at the man in his office and replied, "Second Master Zhai, if you could keep your composure, things wouldn't have ended up like this. I've already learned my lesson. I hope Mrs. Mo can point me in the right direction. Don't worry, regardless of success or failure, I, Zhai Lintian, will not drag you down." Tongning shook her head and said to Zhai Lintian, "If you want me to help you, it's not impossible, but I have a condition. Speak. I don't want to see a situation where men are superior to women happen to you again. Otherwise, I wouldn't help someone with a bad track record," Tongning said to Zhai Lintian. Zhai Lintian took a deep drag on a cigarette and nodded. "I promise you. Second, don't hurt people or kill them. If you want to deal with a person, you can't make her truly afraid by using force." "I'm fine with that as well." Seeing that Zhai Lintian had agreed to both conditions, Tongning finally got to the point. "Liang Yongyu is now brave enough to step all over me. She no longer has anyone in her eyes. But there's another reason why she keeps appearing on camera. She's afraid that the Zhai family will seek revenge. The more your Zhai family acts this way, the more you will be used by her. Thus, tell everyone in the Zhai family not to act blindly without thinking. In that case, what should we do? Step out and apologize. Donate money and make up for it. We need to let everyone know that you've realized your mistake and thank Liang Yongyu for teaching you a lesson. Let's wish her a bright future." After a series of PR actions like this, the Zhai family's image will be half recovered. At least, you'll be able to admit your mistake and make up for it. Plus, if Liang Yongyu decides to extort money from you in the future, you'll be able to step out and cry to her. This is the best solution for the Zhai family right now. Second, if you want to make Liang Yongyu sad, it's actually very easy. Liang Yongyu is currently riding on my popularity and has invested a lot of energy into her new film. She even hired a lot of top celebrities and spent a lot of money on it. All you need to do is help her hype up her new film and make her the #1 celebrity in the world. You can use the reverse psychology of the audience to your advantage and make her feel bad for a while. In our industry, this is called overpraising her to death. Right now, she's simply taking advantage of the slap you gave her to become famous. But her popularity will eventually die down. If you want to make her lose both her body and money, she'll be beyond redemption. Of course, while the Zhai family is trying to clear their name, you can keep an eye on the expert that helped Liang Yongyu. It's best if you have evidence. That way, Liang Yongyu's days of suffering will come even faster. After hearing what Tongning had to say, Zhai Lintian couldn't help but laugh in admiration. As expected, the rumors are indeed impressive. Mrs. Mo is indeed an expert. I've never taken the initiative to treat someone like this. But I will return the favor. Let me warn you, if the Zhai family isn't sincere in their apology, then I will take the initiative to explain everything to the media. Don't worry. With a role model like you, I'm happy to have a daughter. Thank you for today, President Mo and Mrs. Mo. Tongning shook her head at Zhai Lintian, gesturing that he didn't need to be polite. After all, on a certain level, she and Zhai Lintian did indeed have a common enemy. But she wasn't going to use someone else to do her dirty work. After all, everything she told Zhai Lintian was to help the Zhai family. As for her and Liang Yongyu, they were going to be dealt with separately. Those that dared to step on her and climb up the ladder had to pay the price. Liang Yongyu's film was indeed very popular. Although the majority of the people were scolded, there were still a few top fans that spoke up for their idol. She hasn't even started filming yet she already knows that her film is terrible. Are you guys prophetic? My idol's acting is so good. There's no way her film would be worse than Tongning's. How is she leeching off Tongning's popularity? It's not like the title Queen Ant only belongs to her. What could she do against this group of people? Afterwards, Hai Rui officially announced the establishment of Tongning Studio. In other words, from now on, all of Tongning's films would have a logo that belonged to her. This was equivalent to giving her films a label and a mark. This is good. From now on, when people see this logo, they will know that it's produced by Tongning. It'll be more obvious than before. Hyrule sure is fast, but I guess they were forced to do this by the pirated version. This way, Tongning's films will be easier to recognize. From now on, people will only recognize this logo. President Mo is too smart. He's amazing. I don't want to watch any of those disgusting and rubbish films. Let's not even talk about it. Let's go and find out who the producer is. This was equivalent to giving Tongning's films a perfect identity system. After all, a logo was unique and would be prosecuted for infringement. Chapter 1114. Liang Yongyu wanted to ride on the popularity of the Ant Queen, so she threw a lot of money at it. But Tongning's mission was to make her lose everything. All she was doing now was selling her image. But what was the fate of any artist who didn't show any real talent when it came to selling their image? Either his persona was ruined, or he himself was ruined. But no matter what she did, she shouldn't have used Tongning as a stepping stone. Otherwise, she would be digging her own grave. Are you trying to sell your persona? For the sake of her daughter, she didn't want to bow down to her status as the wife of a wealthy family. Her backbone was selling like hotcakes. But don't forget, when Liang Yongyu abandoned her daughter, Mo Ting asked Lu Che to retrieve the surveillance footage from the theater. Lu Che also had information on the second time Liang Yongyu abandoned her daughter. Since that was the case, why should he be polite? Of course, Lu Che couldn't expose the two videos from Hyrule or Tongning's point of view. So, he pretended to be a bystander. At first, he simply posted a short message. I really don't understand how you guys could be tricked by Liang Yongyu. When she threw away her child, she wasn't worried about his life at all. I was an eyewitness at the theater's parking lot. Originally, I didn't want to say anything, but now that I see Liang Yongyu doing so well, I'm a little jealous. It turns out a public persona can be sold in this way. Liang Yongyu and a bunch of other defenders came over to ask for a hammer. Wasn't it popular now to ask for a hammer and get a hammer? In that case, Lu Che would also follow the trend. So, Lu Che decided to release a video of Liang Yongyu placing her daughter beside Mo Ting's car in the dead of winter. In such a cold environment, Liang Yongyu put down the child and left without a trace of hesitation. This caused a lot of mothers to be disgusted. Forgive me for being blunt, but she's a bitch. She actually left her child in the snow. My heart aches just looking at her. She's obviously trying to extort money. What can't Liang Yongyu do? Yet, they insisted on placing it next to President Mo's car. Wasn't this clearly implicating the couple? And there were a bunch of people praising her for being brave enough to love and hate. It makes me want to poke my own eyes out. Afterwards, President Mo and Tongning saved the child. Look at the video. Tongning is so kind. How dare you step on my Ning? This kind of trash doesn't deserve it. I can't believe such a disgusting woman has fans. My worldview has been refreshed. Meanwhile, scandals about Liang Yongyu continue to be exposed to the public. Meanwhile, Liang Yongyu was under a lot of pressure. After all, even though she managed to get past the Zhai family by using Tongning as a stepping stone, she wasn't doing well in the industry. Because Tongning wanted to let her know that she would continue to suffer from the backlash of this incident. Afterwards, Liang Yongyu came up with a new plan to distract the public. She decided to expose a photo of Tongning attending her wedding with her two sons. They tried to use Tongning's twins to distract the public's attention. Of course, she didn't just put up a photo. She hired a fortune teller to read Zichin and Zishi's fortunes. When it came to Zishi, it wasn't too bad. After all, Zishi was destined to be a general and had a bright future ahead of him. But when it came to Zichin, it was said that he was the bane of his family and was a wastrel. The Mo family and Tang family would be dragged down to their deaths by this child. So, the best solution was to find a way for this child to get rid of the demon. And such fortune-telling content had actually become a hot topic. Plenty of people looked down on the fortune teller. You're using someone's children as a scam. Why don't you calculate how long you have left to live? It's rare to see photos of Tongning's children. She simply took them to a wedding. How could she be cursed by such an evil person? Children. It was obvious who was behind this. But Tongning never expected that Liang Yongyu would directly step on her bottom line. How dare she use Zishi and Zishi as a shield? As Long Jie sat beside Tongning and noticed the expression on her face, she felt a chill down her spine. It was rare for her to see Tongning with such an expression. She had always been calm and collected. Yet this time, it was her own sons that were being used as a scam. As soon as this news was released, I immediately gave Lu Che a phone call and told him to remove it from the search rankings. I also told him to delete all the photos of the two young masters. Luckily, it hasn't affected too much. Tongning, what do you plan to do? You're pregnant. You should go home first, Tongning said in a cold tone. But Long Jie understood. After all, the children in Mo Ting were Tongning's bottom line. Yet Liang Yongyu had stepped on it. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in Mo Ting's office wasn't good either. I don't care what method you use. I want Liang Yongyu to be completely blacklisted. Tell everyone to go against Hai Rui. President, are you going to do it the hard way? I don't care if it's soft or hard. I just want Liang Yongyu's name to disappear from Beijing forever, Mo Ting said coldly. Investigate the person behind her. I don't care who's giving her advice. Do as you see fit. If that person's life is too easy, you won't be as relaxed. I understand, President. This was the first time Mo Ting had told him to notify everyone in the industry to ban Liang Yongyu. If anyone dared to use Liang Yongyu or work with her, they would be going against Hai Rui. As soon as the news was released, everyone in the industry immediately stopped working with Liang Yongyu. This time, Lu Che had spoken to the media. Hai Rui was going to do it the hard way. Even if Liang Yongyu cried and complained, she wouldn't receive any exposure. Of course, Liang Yongyu never expected things to turn out this way. It seemed she had no idea that she had already been blacklisted by the industry. Even though Liang Yongyu tried her best to throw money at her film, all the top celebrities had to withdraw from it. After all, who would dare to pluck the hair from the tiger's mouth? A story began to spread within the industry. When someone heard that Liang Yongyu had been blacklisted, they laughed at Hai Rui for being petty and were immediately kicked out of the company. This time, Hai Rui's attitude was obviously fast and ruthless. The next day, Liang Yongyu received all sorts of phone calls telling her to stop working with Liang Yongyu. That's when she realized that the situation had gotten serious. With this thought, Liang Yongyu gave the director she was working with a phone call. But the director was afraid that someone would find out that Liang Yongyu was on the phone. It's best you don't call me again. I don't want to lose my job. Hai Rui has publicly blacklisted you, and everyone is on their own. You better take care of yourself. Hai Rui had blacklisted her. Because of her, she exposed Tongning's child. Was that necessary? Liang Yongyu's lips curved upwards coldly. So, she immediately gave her advisor a phone call. I've been blacklisted by Hai Rui. What should I do? Come to my house, and we'll discuss it, Liang Yongyu's advisor said in a deep voice. Chapter 11:15. The Zhai family quickly published an apology in the newspapers. Whether it was to the public or to Liang Yongyu, the Zhai family showed their sincerity. In order to atone for their wrongdoings, they decided to donate $100 million to the impoverished area. Seeing the Zhai family spend so much money to apologize, the public only had two thoughts. If the Zhai family weren't stupid, then they were truly regretting their wrongdoings. This method effectively restored the Zhai family's image in the public's hearts. At least, they were no longer being pressured like they were previously. As for their relationship with Liang Yongyu, they had already done their best. But the Zhai family still thanked Liang Yongyu for waking them up. After looking at the Zhai family's article, Tongning turned to help Mo Zichen put on his clothes. It was easy to wake the Zhai family up, but who could wake Liang Yongyu up? It wasn't that she didn't know that Mo Ting had blacklisted Liang Yongyu. But that wasn't enough. Liang Yongyu now had $1 billion on her. Even if she couldn't continue in the entertainment industry, she wouldn't be afraid. If it was just a grudge between adults, it wouldn't be a big deal. But Liang Yongyu actually used her two children, so she had to put an end to this matter. Late at night, inside an apartment in Beijing, Liang Yongyu rang the doorbell and was led into the living room by a man. "No one followed you, right?" the man asked as he poured a glass of wine for Liang Yongyu. He was dressed in a white shirt and a limited edition watch. "No," Liang Yongyu said as she put down her handbag. "I just don't know what to do right now. I can't do anything in the entertainment industry. You still have money. What are you afraid of?" The man sat down on the sofa and handed her a glass of wine. "Why don't we partner up and start a company? You can't stay in the entertainment industry forever. You'll have to leave sooner or later. Now's the perfect time. I'm not cut out for business." Liang Yongyu immediately shook her head. "You're not, but I am. I happen to have a project in my hands. You can have a look and consider investing in it. Chile, although you helped me get my $1 billion back, I don't like it when other people control my money." Liang Yongyu obviously didn't feel safe about her investment. She simply felt that it was a losing business. "It's fine if you don't want to. I'm not forcing you. If I'm really doing this for your money, why would I help you for free?" The man called Chile shrugged. "I won't force you to do anything you don't want to do." The man's words successfully comforted Liang Yongyu. "Forget it, as long as you're happy. However, you need to reduce the number of times you come here. After all, being caught by the media isn't a good thing." Liang Yongyu nodded. She enjoyed it very much when the man lowered his head. Not for any other reason, but because this man called Chile was not only a lawyer, he was also extremely handsome. Any woman that got close to him would have their imaginations run wild, especially since he had helped Liang Yongyu so much. As soon as Liang Yongyu heard this, she tried to move closer to the man. "That's not what I meant. I just hope that you can be careful. I'm doing this for your own good. Look, you're spending money so lavishly now. How long can 1 billion last for? I just want you to have a guarantee." The man took the opportunity to seduce Liang Yongyu. "If you really want to be with me, you need to accept my male chauvinism. If you don't want me to interfere with your life, we can stop contacting each other from now on. Chile, during my most difficult time, you helped me. You're the person that treats me the best in this world." Of course, the woman couldn't resist this kind of temptation. Under Chile's constant pestering, she finally agreed to open a law firm with $300 million. After all, Chile's job was to be a lawyer. Liang Yongyu had no idea that Luce had sent someone to follow her. The next morning, Luce placed the information on Liang Yongyu's strategist on Mo Ting's desk. This Chile and Liang Yongyu have worked together a few times before and have gradually become familiar with each other. Perhaps he knows that Liang Yongyu is a big fish, so he put in a lot of effort to gain her trust. In fact, he even helped Liang Yongyu secure a $1 billion breakup fee. That's why Liang Yongyu trusts this lawyer. According to our investigation, this lawyer has a total of 3 girlfriends. He's a complete playboy. All the money he scammed from Liang Yongyu, he used it on his other 2 women. He's really something. In other words, we don't need to do anything for Chile to help us deal with Liang Yongyu. As for Liang Yongyu, don't alert her. Contact Chile's other 2 girlfriends and help them get to know each other's identities. If they're willing, ask them to cooperate and put on a show for Chile to scam all of Liang Yongyu's money. Do you think Liang Yongyu will turn to the Zhai family after losing all her money? How would I know? A woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. Luce laughed. No matter what, they had everything they needed to deal with Liang Yongyu. All they needed to do was add fuel to the fire. Although the photo incident didn't cause any harm to the kids, Mo Ting still wanted Liang Yongyu to pay the price. But, to Tongning's and Mo Ting's surprise, Second Master Zhai gave them another phone call. This time, he arranged to meet them at a 5-star hotel. From the sound of his voice, it seemed his previous gloominess had been swept away. Even his tone was cheerful. Tongning and Mo Ting arrived on time. But, as they arrived, Zhai Lintian arrived with a classy socialite. Mo Ting and Tongning looked at each other. They didn't understand what Zhai Lintian was trying to say. "Let me introduce you to Miss Jiang Wolin. Her father is a government official, and her mother is in the medical industry," Zhai Lintian said as he sat down. After speaking, Zhai Lintian sat down and explained, "Back when Mrs. Mo asked me to make a public apology, it was indeed very effective. Now, The Zhai family is stabilized in many aspects. As for Roland, after seeing me make a public apology, she contacted me and said she was willing to give it a try. After a few days together, I've realized that I've fallen in love again. After hearing Zhai Lintian's words, Emo Ting and Tongning looked at each other. In the past, I didn't believe in love at first sight. But after everything we've been through, I find it unbelievable that someone is still willing to hold my hand at a time like this. I will only continue to be with you if you've truly changed. Otherwise. Chapter 11:16. Don't worry. In order to live up to your kindness, I will definitely grow up. The couple began to flirt with each other. Sometimes the world was a strange place. Some people just happened to find love at the wrong turn. Even though their relationship had just started and they weren't ready yet, if a prodigal son could turn over a new leaf, it would be a great story. That's why I'm really thankful to the two of you. My parents have already said that from now on, as long as the two of you say the word, we will do our best to help you with anything you need. You're not going to dwell on Liang Yongyu's matter anymore? Tongning asked. I'm not going to dwell on it anymore. I hurt her and she hurt me, so we're even? I don't think I need to waste my time on a stranger, Zhai Lintian replied. I've already spoken to Ruo Lin, and she supports me in coming out. Men indeed only know how to grow when they're in trouble. Let's not talk about this anymore. Tell me, how do you expect me to repay you? You have money and we don't lack money. Tongning laughed. Since you've turned over a new leaf, you should live a good life and stop thinking about useless things. You don't need to repay me. I only have one condition. When Liang Yongyu comes back looking for you, you must not give her any response. Will she come back looking for me? Zhai Lintian asked as he held onto Jiang Roland's hand. Definitely. But you need to act like a rich kid. Don't be soft-hearted and fall into trouble again. Don't worry. If that day ever comes, I will tell Roland as soon as possible. This meal was one of the more relaxing ones. No one expected that Zhai Lintian would suddenly find love. But this was also good. Sometimes one couldn't help but admit that marriage was about matching the social status of the two families. Otherwise, it would be extremely tiring to interact with them. It wasn't about finances. It was more about having the same values. After the meal, although Tongning expressed that she didn't want any thanks, the Zhai family were generous enough to hand over all their resources to Hai Rui. They also announced that they would be retreating from the entertainment industry and focusing on their own industry. Tongning's help wasn't in vain. Madam President, I've arranged a wonderful show. Do you want to go and watch? No need. Take us home. Taking care of the kids is more important, Tongning replied. All right, I'll tell you the results later. As for the good show that Lu Che was referring to, he was referring to Chi Lei's other two girlfriends discovering each other's existence. Of course, they were both decent women, so when they found out that their boyfriends were cheating on them, they were naturally upset and angry. At this time, Lu Che arranged for someone to meet the two women. Actually, your boyfriend has a third woman. She's the model that recently appeared on the newspapers, Liang Yongyu. But she had no idea that there was a hidden layer in the documents, and the place where she actually signed was a check. Chi Lei watched as Liang Yongyu pressed her fingerprint onto the check before he put it away without a change in expression. After Liang Yongyu fell asleep, he immediately called the bank to make an appointment to transfer the funds. Liang Yongyu was actually easy to trick, whether it was when she was with the Zhai family or now. But from now on, they would have to say their goodbyes. The funniest thing was, after Liang Yongyu woke up, she had no idea that her money had already been transferred. Everything was but a pipe dream, and she didn't even realize that her misfortune was about to arrive. She was still too young. She thought she was lucky and could change her fate. But if she didn't walk the right path, she wouldn't have a good ending. All that was left was for her to discover what had happened. Who knew how surprised she would be? Chapter 11:17. Liang Yongyu was tricked, but so was Chi Lei. Although he transferred Liang Yongyu's money, he transferred it to his girlfriend's account in batches. Of course, it wasn't all of it, but it was most of it. But what he didn't know was, as soon as he transferred the dirty money to his girlfriend's account, she directly donated it to the hospital. The reason why the doctor's girlfriend put on this act was because she could fake her pregnancy without any flaws. But this was just one time to teach the jerk a lesson. On the surface, the couple agreed on a wedding date and went to register their marriage the day after. But Chile's girlfriend was already prepared to retreat. During this time, apart from keeping an eye on the progress of the matter, Tongning also made preparations to return superstar media to normal. Long Jie was about to give birth to her second child, but Lin Xian was finally back in control. Meanwhile, Tongning was no longer involved with superstar media's management because she needed to move forward with Xiao Sen's film dream. Unfortunately, Xiao San was gone, and she couldn't find a like-minded partner that could help her with her sci-fi film, especially since she didn't know who to direct the Ant Queen 2. It was at this juncture that an artist cut his wrist. To be exact, it wasn't an artist, it was an antisocial art director. Because of his passion for artistic films, he ended up losing all of his family's savings and starved his daughter to death. After hearing the news, Tongning never expected that someone would starve to death in an environment like this. However, the director did not succeed in killing himself. Instead, he was saved by his assistant. This matter caused a sensation for a period of time, causing people to sigh endlessly. Tongning watched all of the director's films. He was depressed, heavy, and a little crazy. It was like he was the epitome of his personality. Seeing this, an idea suddenly came to Tongning's mind. Meanwhile, a few days later, Liang Yongyu finally realized something was wrong with her bank account. She had simply gone to the beauty salon for a simple facial, only to find out that she had no money left. She thought there was an error with the credit card system, so she tried a few times and finally failed to pay. Afterwards, Liang Yongyu called the bank to confirm and was told that the money had already been transferred by check. At this moment, Liang Yongyu suddenly thought of Qi Lei and the signature from the other night. Her originally muddled mind suddenly cleared up. Therefore, she immediately called Qi Lei. "Qi Lei, where are you?" Listening to her tone, Qi Lei had already judged that she knew that the money had been transferred. So he answered her, "I'm out of town on a business trip. What happened to my money?" However, what answered her next was an endless busy tone. Liang Yongyu finally felt her heart burn with anxiety, so she immediately rushed over to Qi Lei's home to look for him. But at that moment, the woman at home was Qi Lei's doctor fiancé. "Who are you looking for?" "Who are you?" Liang Yongyu asked. "I'm Qi Lei's fiancé." The doctor's girlfriend purposely put on an act. "Are you at the wrong place? That's impossible. If you're his fiancé, then who am I to him?" Liang Yongyu pushed the doctor aside and entered Qi Lei's home to search for him. "You don't have to look for him. He's not home." His girlfriend crossed her arms and said, "I said I wanted to eat pineapple cake from the south of the city, so he went to buy it." "Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. What's so hard to understand?" "Liang Yongyu, everyone knows about your situation. You gave birth to 2 daughters and even miscarried one. You're despised by the rich and trampled on by the world. What makes you think that Qi Lei would be willing to be with you? Plus, I already have Qi Lei's child, and he's proposed to me. Did you really think that he would be with a used woman?" Liang Yongyu's girlfriend laughed in disdain. "Oh, by the way, he also transferred the $1 billion you gave me." As soon as Liang Yongyu heard the word $1 billion, she immediately ran over and grabbed onto the doctor's girlfriend's shoulder and shook her. "Give me back my money." "Why should I give it back to you? Didn't you extort money from the Zhai family? I've already donated all of it to the hospital. If your dream of being rich is gone, then your dream of being a rich woman should also be shattered." Liang Yongyu took a few steps back and shook the doctor even harder. The two women began to fight. But a moment later, Qi Lei walked in with the pineapple cake. As soon as he saw his beloved woman being ravaged, he immediately ran over and pushed Liang Yongyu away. "Crazy woman, what are you trying to do?" "Qi Lei, why are you doing this to me? You're the one who threw yourself at me." Qi Lei yelled as he protected his girlfriend. "Isn't it too easy to deal with a gold digger like you who's willing to do anything to marry into a rich family? I'm simply enforcing justice on behalf of the heavens." "You're shameless." Liang Yongyu screamed as she sat on the floor. Give me back my money. I don't know what you're talking about. If you don't leave, I'm going to call security. In the end, Liang Yongyu was kicked out of Qi Lei's home by the security. At this moment, Liang Yongyu began to panic. She had nothing left, not even money. $1 billion. How could she get to Qi Lei so easily? In fact, she even made a wedding dress for someone else. But this wasn't the worst part. The worst part was when the reporters heard about it. They immediately rushed to Qi Lei's home and took photos of Liang Yongyu crying on the floor. Aya, isn't this a rich woman with $1 billion? Why is she lying on the floor? Stop talking nonsense. Hurry and take a few more photos. Her position is so seductive. I heard that the Zhai family took advantage of the breakup fee. How pitiful is this? Leave. All of you leave. Stop taking photos. Stop taking photos. All you know is how to bully me. Liang Yongyu's pitiful cries filled the screen. What awaited her was an endless amount of suffering. Of course, Qi Lei didn't know that the reporters downstairs were called by his girlfriend. He was just curious. Of course, that night, Qi Lei's girlfriend prepared all the evidence of Qi Lei colluding with Liang Yongyu and how he cheated on the three of them. So, while Qi Lei was asleep, she copied all of his contacts and posted a video of the drama she had prepared. Afterwards, she packed her things and left. Where was she going? She was going overseas, far away from this troublesome place. That night, Qi Lei slept especially soundly. But when he woke up the next day, he was shocked by the countless missed calls that he sat up in bed. Chapter 11:18. The first person to call was Qi Lei's mother. The old woman seemed to have a heavy heart as she asked, Lei'er, did you do everything that was exposed online? Mom, what's wrong? Look at the news yourself. Right now, he and Liang Yongyu each occupied half of the entertainment headlines. Liang Yongyu teamed up with her lover to scam $1 billion. Retribution. Her reputation is ruined. High EQ scumbag. Could the beautiful doctor be Tongning's apprentice? When Qi Lei saw this, he carefully looked at the content on the internet. His mind exploded. Not long after, he received a phone call from his company to fire him. At the same time, his family and friends all called him to scold him. Not only did the doctor's girlfriend reveal that Qi Lei and Liang Yongyu colluded to extort money from the Zhai family, but she also revealed that he had an affair with Liang Yongyu and used his position for personal gain. Of course, Qi Lei and Liang Yongyu were now infamous, and the public began to sympathize with the Zhai family. They also admired the doctor's courage in donating the $1 billion to the hospital for cancer research. Now that things had gotten to this point, was there any way to turn things around? No. It seemed he would have to live the rest of his life with his tail between his legs. He would have to wear a mask every day in fear of being recognized. With this thought, Qi Lei laughed self-mockingly. He originally thought he was smart, but it turned out he was nothing more than a toy in someone else's hands. Who took who seriously? No one knew that Mo Ting and Tongning were the masterminds behind the incident. So, this was the best way to repay Liang Yongyu. As of now, Liang Yongyu has been starving for almost 4 days. She has no money on her, and the bank hasn't approved her mortgage. So, she's having a hard time. According to our observations, Liang Yongyu has been loitering around the Zhai family home for the past few days. I'm afraid she won't be able to survive until tomorrow. After hearing Lu Che's report, Mo Ting and Tongning looked at each other. A few seconds later, Tongning said, In that case, tell Zhai Lintian to remember what he promised me. Don't worry, madam. Liang Yongyu never expected that Zhai Lintian would have a new relationship so soon. She thought that if she went home and begged, the Zhai family would give her a way out. So, she found a good opportunity to intercept Zhai Lintian's Maybach. At this moment, the car screeched to a stop. Zhai Lintian stuck his head out and saw that it was Liang Yongyu. He immediately opened the door and walked over to her. It's you. Liang Yongyu was so emotional that she directly knelt in front of Zhai Lintian and cried, Lintian, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. I'm penniless right now, and I haven't eaten in days. For the sake of our past friendship, I beg you, give me a way out. Speaking of which, I need to make two things clear to you. Firstly, the Zhai family is indeed patriarchal. However, the Zhai family didn't intentionally torture our eldest daughter to death. Although the Zhai family is hateful, they aren't cruel enough to kill their own flesh and blood. Secondly, I deserve to die for what I did to you in the past. So, in addition to the harm you've done to me, we're even. Thirdly, for the sake of our past friendship, I advise you to leave the Zhai family. No, it's not like that. Lintian, I can give birth to another son for you. I definitely can. No need. Have some self-respect, Zhai Lintian said before he turned around and looked at the woman in the front passenger seat. When Jiang Roland saw this, she also got out of the car and walked over to Liang Yongyu. Although you're pitiful, I'm still happy to see you struggling at death's door. Lintian did wrong you in the past and treated you like a tool. But he also paid a heavy price for it. So, no one wants to look back at the past. Miss Liang, don't act like you're poor in front of us. You have arms and legs and can live on your own. There's no need to put on a show in front of us. In this world, not everything can come and go as you please. I'm going to make things clear to you today. I hope we never see each other again. After speaking, Jiang Roland walked over to Zhai Lintian and hooked onto his arm. Let's go home. Zhai Lintian, aren't you afraid that I'll expose everything you've done? Go ahead. Zhai Lintian did not look back as he led Jiang Roland home. No matter how much Liang Yongyu cried, he ignored her. Why did you provoke her? Jiang Roland asked Zhai Lintian afterwards. Aren't you afraid that she'll expose herself? Because I want to live my life in peace. Zhai Lintian replied. But even if Liang Yongyu cried and exposed herself, no one would believe her. This was Liang Yongyu's ending. After watching a series of events, the pregnant Long Jia felt comfortable and her mood brightened up. These bitches should be punished like this. They're materialistic and evil. Because of these people, the world is filled with filth. Liang Yongyu is just a drop in the ocean of the entertainment industry. In this industry, people chase after fame and fortune. Who doesn't have a plan behind their backs? Tongning replied as she looked at the news. Don't make it sound so scary. If there's someone like Liang Yongyu, there's bound to be someone like you. Long Jia winked at Tongning. By the way, I've been here for so long, yet you're so distracted when you're talking to me. What are you looking at? I'm looking at someone's life story. Are you trying to help a new artist? Of course not. I'm trying to save a lonely soul. Tongning sighed. After the director cut his wrist, Tongning explained her thoughts to Mo Ting. She wanted to contact the director and see if he could become the next Xiao senator, so she decided to try her best to understand the director's life story. He was indeed talented, but not many people understood him. They simply felt that his ideas were strange. In this aspect, he was similar to Xiao Senator, that's why Tongning chose him. However, she wasn't confident that the director would like sci-fi like Xiao Senator, so all she could do was give it a try. Everything was going well for her, but she was missing a director with a soul. This was the direction that she wanted to work towards. You always have strange ideas, but it's because of your ideas that you've become who you are today, Long Jia sighed. Tell me, what kind of earth-shattering thing are you planning to do this time? I don't want to do anything earth-shattering. I simply want to retain a talent. Tongning replied. You're currently pregnant, so I'll leave Superstar Media in Lin Qian's hand for now. I'll return after your baby is born. Okay. Long Jia's emotions were complicated when Superstar Media was mentioned. You're pregnant, and I don't need your help with anything. From now on, you should go home and get some rest. Tongning had decided to make a move on the hospital's director. Chapter 1119. The director's name was Bai Jun. Just like his name, he was arrogant and unruly. But how was he supposed to survive in the entertainment industry where the strong preyed on the weak? Tongning also found out that not only did he owe money, his parents were also like vampires, constantly squeezing him dry and leaving all the good stuff for his brother. So, while their oldest son was in the hospital on the brink of death, the Bai family's parents refused to pay for their youngest son's education to extend their oldest son's life. By the time Tongning arrived at the hospital, the debt collectors were causing a ruckus in the hospital room. A few burly men were dragging the weak Bai Juni, while his parents and brother stood to one side and watched coldly. You said you had 3 days, but 3 days have already passed, and you still don't have the money. The debt collectors saw Bai Juni's expression and were afraid that he would die, so they turned their attention to his family. But the Bai family's parents quickly left with their youngest son. He has nothing to do with us. If you want to pay, then go look for him. Mother Bai said, as she pointed at Bai Juni. Tongning stood silently outside the door for a minute before she gestured for her bodyguards to step forward. The 3 debt collectors weren't professional thugs, so they were quickly restrained by Tongning's bodyguards. At this time, Tongning and Lu Che entered the hospital room. Who are you? Isn't she the famous celebrity? One of the Bai family's henchmen pointed at Tongning as he recognized her. Tongning did not answer the debt collector's question. Instead, she asked, "How much does he owe you?" "No more, no less. $1. 5 million. Don't help me pay him back. I can't pay him back. After all, I'm all alone right now. If I'm full, my family won't go hungry," Bai Jun said as he sat on the floor. "Of course, if you want to do something good, I won't stop you." Lu Che, pay him according to what he originally owed. Don't give him a single cent that he shouldn't have, Tongning said as she turned to Lu Che. Did these loan sharks really think it was that easy to rob money? Okay, madam. After speaking, Lu Che signaled the 2 bodyguards to lead the 3 debt collectors out of the room. At this time, Tongning called a nurse over to help Bai Jun onto the bed. She is that superstar, I was right. As soon as Tongning appeared, Bai Jun was indeed surprised. It was as if he had seen a ghost. How could such a big Buddha suddenly appear in my small temple? Let's talk about your matter later. Let me talk about something else first. After speaking, Tongning turned to look at her parents. From the looks of it, the 2 elders don't seem to be willing to lend a helping hand to your son. Because of him, we have to hide everywhere. I've had enough of this kind of life. Father Bai snorted. I don't want you to be responsible for his debts, but the things he gave the Bai family before, including money, houses, and cars, can you return them all at once? As a family, aren't you ashamed that you can't share the pain and happiness? The younger son is a son, but the older son isn't? Don't spout nonsense, old man. Don't provoke her. She's very powerful. If she exposes our matter, we won't be able to keep our chastity. Mother Bai immediately tried to persuade her husband. Let's take Xiao Bao and leave. Once we step out of this door, when Bai Jun becomes successful, I hope the 2 of you won't turn back. When that time comes, I'm sorry he won't recognize you. Let's go, let's go. Tongning sent the Bai family away with a few words before she turned to look at Bai Jun. At this time, Bai Jun looked into Tongning's eyes with a meaningful smile. Superstar Tang, I don't understand why you're helping me. I'm just a useless person. By the way, don't think that you can save me. I still owe you a lot. You don't need to see everyone wearing a thick suit of armor. Don't think that just because you're a genius that others can't understand you. If you put yourself in such a lonely position, it's no wonder your family despises you. Tongning helped Bai Jun, so of course, she also took the opportunity to suppress him. Haha, is that why you're lecturing me again? Do you want to be my director? Do you want to film the Ant Queen too? Tongning asked straightforwardly. Did I hear that right? You're a director that makes sci-fi films, yet you want me, an artsy director, to direct a sci-fi film? Have you lost your mind? So what if it's a sci-fi film? So what if it's an artsy film? It's simply 2 different ways of expressing yourself. Don't you think that your darkness, depression, madness, and eeriness can all be combined into a sci-fi film? Tongning asked. Bai Jun, let me be honest with you. The artsy film that you want in the entertainment industry has no room for survival. Only my sci-fi films can preserve your own thoughts. Although Bai Jun didn't want to admit it, he had watched The Ant Queen before. Tongning and Xiao Sin's films weren't like those that were tacky. Their films had soul. Apart from the fate of the characters, the sci-fi elements, including the Ant Queen, had their own unique charm that made people want to understand and explore. But he was no longer in the mood to make films. His daughter was dead and everything was ruined. What was the point of moving forward? So, he directly said to Tongning, I think it's best that you don't try to stop me. Superstar Tang, I'm just a burden. Anyone that gets involved with me will be in trouble. For the sake of your own safety, you should stay away from me. I will never agree to your request. This man's personality was hard to understand and difficult to get along with. So, Tongning did not expect to succeed on her first try. When a person's heart was dead, all that was left was disdain for the world. He was tired of everything in the world, so he didn't think there was any point in continuing to live. Tongning did not force him. She simply gave him her contact details and left. But Baijuni did not even look at her. He simply closed the door and laughed as he sat on the bed. All he wanted to do was die, and no one could stop him. Madam, how did the discussion go? Hearing this, Tongning shook her head. I don't think I'll be able to deal with Gugu. There aren't many people that you can't deal with. There are actually a lot of things that I can't deal with. Tongning sighed. After all, she was still made of flesh and blood, so there was a limit to what she could do. Luce, get someone to keep an eye on Baijuni. I'm afraid he might do something stupid again. Yes, madam. Chapter 11:20. That night, Mo Ting returned home. After hearing about the cold treatment Tongning received at the hospital, he comforted her. Take it slow. After all, he's a hopeless person. It's hard to pull him back. If he wants to think, you can't stop him. You should meet him sooner. That way, his talent won't be buried. After hearing this, Mo Ting stretched out his hand and grabbed onto Tongning's chin as he asked seductively, Who do you think you should meet sooner? Tongning was a little surprised before she realized that Mo Ting's vinegar jar had been knocked over. President Mo, you can't be that petty, right? What do you think? Tongning did not respond. She simply moved her hand from his waist to Mo Ting's upper body and ran her fingers across his muscular chest. Are you still angry? Not sincere enough, Mo Ting commented in a low voice before he carried Tongning into the kitchen. Why aren't we going to the bedroom? Tongning exclaimed as she was placed on the sink. The bedroom is too far away, don't you think? Huh? They were already an old couple, so there was no need to be shy. Of course, to prevent the two little devils from entering the kitchen, Mo Ting locked the door from the inside. In order to not let out any sounds, Tongning controlled herself. She had no choice but to comply with this man. Even though he had asked for it countless times, she was still willing. Afterwards, it was already late at night. After their passionate session, Tongning fell asleep in Mo Ting's arms. Mo Ting carried his beloved wife back to the bedroom in satisfaction. He then headed into the bathroom to help her freshen up before placing her on the bed and letting her sleep. Afterwards, he tidied himself up and headed downstairs to take care of the 3 kids to make sure they weren't mischievous. But just as he was about to go to bed, he noticed a missed call on Tongning's phone. Seeing it was Lu Che, Mo Ting quietly replied, What's up? President, the madam told me to keep an eye on Baijuni. I never expected that he would actually slit his wrist again in the middle of the night. He's currently being treated. Which hospital are you at right now? Mo Ting asked. Beijing Hospital. Make sure you keep a secret. I'll be right there. Perhaps Baijuni thought it was ridiculous that Tongning went to look for Baijuni. After all, he admired art. In other words, deep down, he would never accept that a woman could save him and give him a new opportunity. But if it was a man, perhaps things would be different. So, after lowering his head to kiss Tongning, Mo Ting changed his clothes and left the house. As usual, he was dressed in a retro striped suit. He looked dignified and tall. After Mo Ting arrived at the hospital, Lu Che immediately brought him to Baijuni's room. He had just been rescued. As soon as he saw Mo Ting enter, he sneered, Another one. This time, the person that's coming is even more extraordinary. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply walked over to the window and said to Baijun, Your daughter wouldn't want you to do this. How would President Mo know? Because I also have a daughter, Mo Ting replied. I'm just curious. It's the middle of the night. Why aren't you resting with your wife at home? Why did you come to my ward? She's indeed asleep, but I received a phone call saying that you tried to commit suicide again. So, I decided to come and have a look. From what I can remember, you're the first man that has lived like a sissy, Mo Ting commented. If you continue to seek death, I won't stop you. But you can find a quiet place and slowly enjoy the feeling of death. Just don't let my wife see it. Otherwise, she will continue to save you. Did you think that your cynicism would allow you to leave behind a legacy? But in reality, no one in this world will remember you. You can die in peace. In the end, no one will even claim your corpse. After hearing Mo Ting's words, Bai Jun laughed. I've realized that the two of you are quite interesting. One wants me to live, while the other wants me to die. I simply don't want her to waste her energy on someone that's about to die. In that case, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to die. Bai Jun said angrily. Tongning's going to look for a director, right? I'm going to be her director and snatch her over. Do you want me to die even more? As a director, you're not bad. But my wife is straight and doesn't like women, especially not sissy women. After saying this, Mo Ting left the room. Bai Jun wanted to say a few more words, but Mo Ting did not give him a chance. As a man, Mo Ting's lifestyle was probably the envy of all men. He had turned himself into the king of the entertainment industry, so the fact that Bai Jun was able to talk to him like that was quite a good feeling. Plus, according to Mo Ting, Tongning must have sent people to keep an eye on him to prevent him from committing suicide. In order to find a director, Tongning was willing to disregard the consequences. But he was someone that sold his art. It would be strange if he was interested in sci-fi. Plus, there were so many popular and reputable directors in the industry. Why didn't Tongning choose any of them over a poor young man like him? This taste could be considered to be very tricky, but no matter what, it was quite interesting to tease the couple. It was scary. His life only had this little bit of fun, but as long as he was alive, he still had a pile of debts waiting to be paid. Thinking of this, he wanted to die again. Tongning had no idea that Mo Ting had also seen Bai Jun. The next morning, after preparing breakfast for the family, she returned to the bedroom to find Mo Ting still asleep. She was quite confused. He was usually very disciplined, so why hadn't he woken up yet? She thought Mo Ting was sick, but he was simply too tired from the night before. Plus, he was already awake. I thought you had a cold again, so I was about to check your temperature. Mo Ting sat up and shook his head. Give Luce a phone call first. Mo Ting sat up and shook his head. Let's give Luce a call first and postpone the video conference. Okay, hurry and wash up. Tongning picked up Mo Ting's phone. Just as she was about to give Luce a phone call, she suddenly heard cries coming from downstairs. Tongning quickly ran downstairs, only to find the two brothers lying on the ground with Mo Zishi on top of Mo Zichin. Both of them were in pain from the fall. Mo Zishi burst into tears, while his younger brother did not make a sound. But because Mo Zichin was lying on his side, his left cheekbone was left with a bloody cut. Tongning was so frightened that she immediately yelled upstairs, Ting, hurry, Zichin's injured. As soon as Mo Ting heard this, he immediately rushed his son to the hospital. Luckily, the cut wasn't deep. But even so, he still needed a few stitches. It was possible that it would leave a permanent scar on Mo Zichin's face. It's all my fault. Despite all the precautions I took, I still couldn't completely eliminate the danger. Tongning blamed herself as she looked at her son's injured face. You're already careful enough. Mo Ting comforted. Perhaps no one would have known that this incident had nothing to do with Mo Zichin. Mo Zichin simply lay down when he saw Mo Zishi fall backwards, allowing his brother to fall on top of him. Chapter 11:21. But Mo Zichin's injury wasn't as simple as Tongning thought. Soon, his left eye began to fill with blood. So, Tongning had no choice but to call the doctor for a second examination. A foreign object has entered the baby's eye and caused damage to his retina. If the situation worsens, he may lose his vision in his left eye. So, he may need to receive treatment for a while. He's still so young. Tongning was stunned by the doctor's words. Mrs. Mo, since you've encountered him, you can only relax and let him receive treatment, the pediatrician comforted. Tongning turned around and looked at Mo Ting anxiously. Everything was fine at first. How did this happen all of a sudden? He's still so young. If I had taken good care of him, this wouldn't have happened. Mo Ting could sense Tongning's anxiety, so he quickly patted her on the back and comforted, Zichen will be fine. Look at him. He hasn't cried a single time. That's right. It's strange. If a normal child was injured this badly, they would have burst into tears by now. Yet, he hasn't cried or thrown a tantrum. The doctor looked at Mo Zichen with a confused expression. He doesn't look like he's particularly sensitive to pain. But because Mo Zichen didn't cry or throw a tantrum, Tongning's heart tightened even more. It's all my fault. I can't even take care of him properly. Seeing Tongning blaming herself, Mo Ting suddenly felt a sense of regret. Perhaps he shouldn't have wanted a child. He was well aware of Tongning's personality. She viewed him and the child as more important than her own life. So, she placed all the blame on herself for Zichen's injury. Moreover, she was really frightened, wasn't she? With this thought, Mo Ting gave Bai Lihua and Xia Yuling a phone call. Mom, Zichen has suffered a minor injury. Can you take him to the Tang family home and take care of him? What happened? Xia Yuling asked curiously. What injury? Is it serious? Just come and pick him up. Okay, let's head to the hospital right away. As soon as Xia Yuling heard that her grandson had been injured, she was so anxious that she forgot about her work and picked up Bai Lihua as the two in-laws arrived at the hospital. Mom, why are you here? Seeing this, Tongning immediately stood up from her chair to greet her parents. What are you talking about? One of my friends saw you at the hospital and said that Zichen was injured, so of course we rushed over. Xia Yuling looked at Tongning in a slightly blaming manner. Since Lihua and I have a lot of time on our hands, we will take care of Zichen. Zishi will come with us too. Just keep an eye on Yin. Mom, what? Are you looking down on us? Xia Yuling pretended to be strong. You just need to visit your son every week. It's decided. Xiao Ning, don't blame your mother for being stubborn. But she is truly thinking for your sake. Look at yourself. Zichen is still a child. It's normal for him to get hurt. Yet, look at yourself. Zichen is still a child, so it's normal for him to get hurt. Yet, why are you so worried? You place too much importance on the child and Mo Ting. If you have time, you should think more about yourself. Brother Zichen will take care of him. Don't worry. When they're a little older, you can take them back and take care of them. That way, we won't have to run back and forth every day. You take good care of Yin. Daughters are closer to their mothers. Mom, that's settled then. Don't worry. Mom can guarantee that Zichen's eyes will return to normal. Tongning didn't have much room to refute. She simply looked at Mo Ting helplessly. Mo Ting stretched out his hand and patted her on the head like he was trying to give her some strength. Trust me. Okay, then. After temporarily taking the children away and not seeing them, Tongning wouldn't feel so guilty. If Tongning didn't feel guilty, then he wouldn't feel heartache. Seeing the helpless look on Tongning's face, his heart felt like it was being stabbed by needles. Sometimes, when a person's love seeped deep into their bones, they could affect everything. This was all because the influence they had on each other was simply too shocking. It didn't take long before Zichen received his first treatment. His eyes were covered with bandages, but he did not cry or make a fuss. It was like nothing had happened. Afterwards, Bai Lihua and Xia Yuling picked up the two children and left for Mo Ting to comfort Tongning. No matter how strong Tongning was to the outside world, she was still a mother. After returning home, Tongning stared at her two sons' beds in a daze. Could it be that someone as stubborn as her couldn't even take care of her children? Look at yourself right now. How can you keep your children company? You're feeling guilty towards Zichen, so you're going to ignore your concern for Zishi. As time goes by, the two kids will feel that you're being unfair. So, let Mom take the kids away. They won't mistreat us. Tongning turned around and hugged Mo Ting. I know you asked Mom to take the kids away. Mo Ting froze. I also know that you're afraid that I'll feel guilty. I don't know what's wrong with me, but when it comes to you and the kids, I can't control my worry. You must be feeling bad too. The more I feel guilty, the more you blame yourself. You can't let me be like this. I know you've been through a lot and you're feeling worse than me, but you've never said anything. I'm used to it. Mo Ting comforted. You're too tense. It's fine. Zichen will get better. Trust me, okay? At this moment, Tongning suddenly found the courage to peek out from Mo Ting's embrace and say, I'm fine now. You're pretending to be strong, silly woman. Ting couldn't do anything to her. To distract her, Ting woke up the sleeping yin heir and handed it to Tongning to seduce. He wanted her to regain her confidence as a mother. Afterwards, he stayed up all night to edit the script for the Ant Queen 2 one last time and handed it to Tongning the next morning. Have a look. Before Tongning had time to feel sad, she saw the complete script of the Ant Queen 2. Afterwards, Ting returned to the office. But as soon as he arrived, he fell asleep on his desk. As soon as Luce walked in and saw Ting sleeping, he did not continue to disturb him. Instead, he gently closed the door behind him and told the staff not to enter. Who else could make Ting work so hard? There was only one Tongning in this world. Afterwards, Luce gave Tongning a phone call to check on Ting. Madam, did the president stay up all night? What's wrong? He slept in his office the entire day. I didn't dare to disturb him. Tongning looked at the script in her hands and finally realized what Ting had done for her. Chapter 1122. That night, Ting woke up in one of Hai Rui's waiting rooms to find Tongning sitting at the head of the bed. She smiled at him. You're awake? I asked Luce to carry you on to bed. Even so, you didn't wake up. Tongning laughed bitterly as she waved the script in her hands. Tongning gave a bitter laugh as she shook the script in her hand. Because of this, you didn't sleep at all. It's not as exaggerated as you make it sound. How is it? Have you finished reading it? Ting tried to divert Tongning's attention. It's because you said you wanted to add senior long, and it's going to be a teacher-student story. This script isn't as important as you. Don't suffer like this for me in the future. If you can't handle it anymore and get tired because of this, what do you expect me to do? I won't, Ting assured as he hugged her. I won't ever. Tongning did not continue to pester him. She simply returned home with Ting and they cooked dinner together. After taking care of their daughter, they curled up on the sofa and began to discuss the plot of the Ant Queen 2. I think your script is already complete, but you still need to add a few more things. Add what? Add an antagonist. What do you think about playing the antagonist this time? I'm sure you'll look very sexy as the antagonist. Tongning said. After hearing this, Ting felt a little doting and helpless. Didn't they agree that he wouldn't be taking part in the second film? From the looks of it, he had fallen into another trap. But the main problem was that they hadn't successfully invited a new director yet. Speaking of Baijun, Tongning wasn't sure what his current situation was. The couple discussed a few details before Tongning gave Xia Yuling a phone call to check on Zichen. Of course, the two mothers took good care of him. Tongning returned to Baijun's hospital the next day. But when she arrived, Baijun was already packing his luggage to be discharged. Have you thought it through? Life is but a drop in the ocean, Baijun replied. Thank you for helping me pay off my loan. I will find a way to pay you back. Are you still not planning to sign a contract with me? The script is out, and everything is ready. Speaking of which, it's all thanks to you. Perhaps you asked me to film a film to make the creditor think that Tongning was interested in me and that I might be of some use. So he promised me that if I could film a good sci-fi film for him, he would let bygones be bygones. What do you think? Tongning was suddenly speechless as she looked at Baijun. Since all of you think I can do it, I'll give it a try. Who knows? I might really become famous and surpass you. After speaking, Baijun put his luggage on his back and whispered in her ear, I hope you find a director that you're satisfied with. Just like that, Tongning watched as Baijun left. She couldn't do anything because Baijun was completely unruly. He couldn't be controlled by anyone. Despite her repeated invitations, Baijun was not moved at all. Now that things had come to this, what else could she do? Soon, Springfall officially announced that they would be filming the first film in the sci-fi series Parasite. The film would be directed by Baijun, and the international superstar Fan Di would be the main lead. As soon as the announcement was made, it immediately attracted the attention of the film industry. Tongning's success with the Ant Queen made everyone realize that Beijing's sci-fi industry was still a blank slate. Springfall wasn't fooling around either. From the screenwriter to the actors, they went through a strict selection process before they finally made the decision. This meant that the sci-fi industry was about to enter a new era. However, according to rumors online, Tongning had previously invited Bai Juni to direct The Ant Queen 2, but he chose to direct Parasite instead. This confused the public. Wasn't The Ant Queen more attractive? This Bai Juni doesn't know how to appreciate your kindness. I can't believe you treated him so well, and even President Mo went to look for him. What a waste. Long Jie was furious after hearing about this. Is there something wrong with this man's brain? He owes the other party a debt, so it's only natural for him to repay it this way, Tongning replied. Besides, it was his personal choice. He didn't do anything wrong. How could you speak up for him? I'm not speaking up for him. This Bai Juni is definitely not an unscrupulous person. But there's no suitable director right now. What are you going to do? Why don't you do it yourself? After hearing Long Jie's excited suggestion, Tongning shook her head. Although I've been learning from Jones for a few months, I'm still a newbie. Before this, I didn't even have any work to my name. You didn't act before you became an actress either, did you? What else could you do? You don't think anyone else is suitable. Now that sci-fi films were starting to gain competition, it was good for the industry as a whole. As long as it was a good film, it didn't matter if it was a healthy competition. Plus, making Tongning feel threatened was also a form of motivation. Let me think about it a little more. The quality of the director determined the success or failure of a film. Thinking of this, Tongning wished that Xiao Sun was still alive. How great would that be? How excited would he be to see that there was competition? The sci-fi that he loved was now being valued by the public. After hearing that Bai Juni had been snatched away, Mo Ting comforted Tongning. It's not that bad. You still have a lot of options. I know that the top directors in the country are all great in their own ways. It's not that I don't think they're capable. I simply feel that every director has something that they're good at. If they can't film the film that they're good at, it would be a waste of their talent. Look at Xiao Sr. Take your time, and you'll eventually find a suitable one. In reality, Mo Ting's desk already had plenty of information on directors. But because of the slump in the Chinese sci-fi industry, not many directors had experience in this area. So, the reason why Tongning chose Bai Juni was because he had a wildness to his films. This was something that Tongning liked and no one else had. But the director had already been signed. Even though he was the big boss of the entertainment industry, he couldn't break the rules of the industry. So, with Bai Juni joining the competition, Tongning felt a lot of pressure. The Ant Queen 1 foot had Xiao Senator, but without him, Tongning was like a bird without wings. Although the audience acknowledged Nzaheo's abilities in the second half of The Ant Queen 2, he still needed to put in a lot of effort. Could The Ant Queen 2 continue to be as exciting as The Ant Queen 2? This was the question that everyone was most concerned about. How could Tongning overcome her own limitations? Chapter 1123. Parasite boasted that it had a bigger cast than The Ant Queen. It had a huge investment, famous actors, a famous screenwriter, and a luxurious production. Coupled with a strong promotional campaign, it also showed its sincerity in Beijing. From the looks of it, The Ant Queen was indeed aiming to surpass The Ant Queen. So, it received a lot of attention from film fans. Back when Tongning and Xiao Sun first produced The Ant Queen, the conditions were difficult to begin with. It wasn't easy for sci-fi films to rise to prominence, but now they couldn't strike while the iron was hot and continue the popularity of The Ant Queen. All they could do was watch as others took advantage of the situation. Tongning lost Xiao Sun, and this was a regret that she couldn't make up for. As a result, the development of The Ant Queen 2 became a lot more limited. She had all kinds of actors and directors to choose from. But Tongning refused to settle for anything else. Afterwards, Bai Juni sent someone over to deliver the money he owed Tongning. At the same time, he gave her a piece of advice. The person in charge of Spring Fall seems to have something to do with Hai Rue. Be careful. Consider this a favor. What Bai Juni was trying to say was that Spring Fall was targeting Hai Rue. It was as if they were trying to take over. Tongning relayed Bai Juni's words to Mo Ting and asked if he remembered something like this. After hearing this, Mo Ting immediately picked up the intercom on his desk, Come in, Lu Che. President, what are your orders? Go investigate Springfall's background and find out who it used to be, Mo Ting instructed. Okay, I'll get to it right away, Lu Che said as he left the office. As for finding a director, there's no need to rush. Back then, the Ant Queen was made because it was an emergency. But now we have the power to speak, so we don't need to panic just because someone announces something. The growth of sci-fi films is a good thing for the industry, Mo Ting said calmly. There's no rush. You can take your time to find a suitable candidate. Okay, do you have time to visit your son at the Tang family home? Okay, Mo Ting nodded. Tongning wasn't in a rush to film the Ant Queen 2. But before she confirmed the meaning behind Bai Junyi's words, she was a little worried. What she didn't notice was that the production crew of Parasite had already contacted the Glory team. The post-production team that Tongning had personally trained in the past had contributed immeasurably to the Ant Queen. But people always wanted to climb higher. As long as the conditions were good enough, they would choose to jump ship. If they followed the procedures, there was nothing Tongning could do. Worst of all, Tongning found out about this from Long Jie. Springfall contacted the entire Glory team and offered a sky-high price. They were willing to provide the best post-production for Parasite. Tongning immediately contacted the person in charge of the team. Back when they were in the US, they had fought together despite the difficulties. But now, for the sake of their own interests, they were willing to betray her and Xiao Sun. However, the team were too ashamed to face Tongning again. So, they generously handed over their compensation and turned to leave. As soon as the news was released, it immediately caused an uproar. After all, the public was equally surprised by the amount of effort Tongning had put in to create this team. Above all, Tongning was considered a towering green. Why did these birds choose another tree? Job hopping was common in every industry. Everyone in the industry moved around. But Tongning didn't have a director or a post-production team. How was she going to produce the Ant Queen 2? The Glory team publicly thanked Tongning for training them. Wasn't this the same as rubbing salt into Tongning's wounds? As soon as Long Jie heard about this, she almost burst into tears. But Tongning remained calm. Aren't you angry? What's done is done. What's the point of being angry? Tongning asked. Of course not. Since you managed to train Glory, you can also train a new team. Since the Ant Queen is already dead, let's put our lives on the line, Mo Ting said as he entered the living room after returning home. We didn't get to this point because we lacked resources. It's just hard to accept being betrayed like this, Long Jie explained. Everyone has their own choices, and everyone has to pay the price for their choices. After speaking, Tongning went upstairs to get changed and took Long Jie home. Afterwards, she and Mo Ting headed to the Tang family home to see their son. I have a suggestion, Tongning said on the way to the Tang family home. I also have a suggestion, but you go first, Mo Ting replied. If the entire Glory team jumped ship, we need to find a replacement. No, not a replacement, a new team. My idea is, we don't need a professional in post-production. We need a computer genius. As you know, there have been a few child prodigies in the past. Although they aren't easy to control, if they jump out of the box, we might be able to receive a different surprise, Tongning said calmly. How do we prevent them from jumping ship again? Mo Ting asked. If they want to jump ship, they'll eventually jump ship, Tongning replied in a self-mocking manner. But, trust me, compared to those that come from a professional background, they definitely have a different view towards money. But, trust me, compared to those that come from a professional background, they definitely have a different view towards money. Lu Che just received news that there will be a meet and greet between Glory and Parasite at Dynasty Hotel the day after tomorrow. If you have some time, you should attend and vent your anger. Okay, they're leaving just like that without even saying goodbye. What do they think I am? By the way, what is your suggestion? Actually, Xiao Sen style can be continued, Mo Ting replied. Someone contacted me this morning and said that if you don't mind, she can come and direct the Ant Queen 2. Who? Xiao Sen's daughter, Miss Xiao, Mo Ting replied. Over the years, she's been influenced by Xiao San and has already taken Xiao Sen's ideas to heart. Plus, even though she didn't study directing, She's a great photographer and has shot a lot of award-winning short films. Are you willing to trust her? Of course. Tong Ning's tears almost rolled out her eyes. She felt like Xiao San had come back to life. In that case, you should meet up as soon as possible. This is probably the best news I've received so far, Tong Ning suddenly said excitedly. Look at you. Although there were a lot of twists and turns, God always made up for it. As long as she didn't give up, there was always a chance to turn things around. By the way, has Lu Che found out anything about the previous owner of Springfall? Chapter 1124. I'm currently investigating, Mo Ting replied simply, but his expression was unfathomable. For Lu Che to spend so much time investigating, it was obvious how difficult the matter was. In that case, we need be careful. After the couple returned to the Tang family home, they met up with little one-eyed Mo Zichin. Sandwiched amongst a group of relatives, his eyebrows were furrowed, and he looked exactly like an old man. He did not have the pampering aura a child of his age should have. On the other hand, Mo Zishi and Tang Xian's daughter were having a lot of fun. Meanwhile, Mo Zishi was hiding in one corner with an expression that told the whole world to ignore him. It seemed he did not care about the adults teasing. You're here. Elder Tang looked at the couple happily. Now that he was retired, he enjoyed playing with his grandchildren and living a carefree and relaxed life. These two little devils didn't bring you any trouble, did they? I was afraid that you would take them away. Elder Tang loved his two grandchildren to the bone, especially Mo Zichin. He was so young, yet he did not cry or make a fuss. It was like he had the thoughts of an adult. It was very interesting. That's good. Tong Ning looked at her two sons. Even though she was their mother, she still couldn't hug her own sons. There were so many people in the house. Even if everyone waited for a few minutes, it would still take half an hour before it was her turn. She couldn't help but feel a little jealous. I've seen quite a bit of news about you on the entertainment news. Are you okay? Elder Tang took the opportunity to ask Tong Ning during dinner. Seeing that they did not respond, he laughed. Perhaps it's because I'm getting old and have become used to breaking and reuniting. So, I've become immune to job hopping amongst the young. There's bound to be separation between people, not to mention a partnership based on money. Even if you and Mo Ting love each other, you will eventually leave this world one after another. So do what you need to do. Don't get angry over irrelevant people and small matters. Understand? Yes, I understand, grandfather, Tong Ning replied. It's not a big deal that can be resolved. I know how capable my granddaughter and grandson-in-law are. You should all know that the Tang family will always have your back. Of course, I also hope that you will never need to use it. It meant there was nothing that Tong Ning and Mo Ting couldn't solve. Thank you very much, Grandpa. Jing Xian has worked hard. Even the foreigners are full of praise for his new perfume. The Tang family's business is getting better and better. This is all because of you young people. For some reason, Elder Tang was more talkative than usual that night. Ever since she was young, Tong Ning had never experienced the love of a grandfather. Tonight, she finally felt that she had a great grandfather. Sis, lend me your nephew to play with for a couple of days. I want Xingyan to learn how to take care of the kids. Tang Jingxian truly love the twins. My child is not a toy. That night, the Tang family was filled with laughter. But Mo Zichin still had a serious expression on his face. All that was missing was a grunt. This kind of little Meng Bao, of course, won the love of the whole family. With Elder Tang's encouragement, Tong Ning seemed to gain more energy. This was the strength of her family. After I prepare the information, I will go look for Miss Chiao on the island. I'm confident that we can do even better. This was one of the strengths of Tong Ning that Mo Ting loved the most. Because no matter what she did and no matter what difficulties she faced, she would never give up. No matter how difficult it was, she would persevere. 2 days later, the crew of Parasite met up with the post-production team at Dynasty Hotel. Faced with the team that had jumped ship from Tong Ning's side, the crew naturally cheered. You guys are amazing. The post-production team of The Ant Queen is the best out of all the domestically produced sci-fi films. You guys aren't bad. I know, right? You guys jumped ship from Tong Ning's side. You have a temper. Tongming is just a woman. What could she possibly do? The Ant Queen was all a stroke of luck. If she wants to do something big, she should choose to do it in a place with a lot of men. Don't you agree? I agree. The entire Glory team were flushed with anger from the ridicule of the crew. But Baijuni sat in the crowd without saying a word. Occasionally, he would even let out a laugh. Betrayal was betrayal. What was there to praise? At this time, a waiter suddenly entered the VIP room and said, "Gentlemen, someone has already paid for your bill tonight. So if you need anything else, feel free to let us know." "Who is it? That nice?" The scriptwriter of Parasite turned and asked the waitress. "Invite her out so we can thank her in person." "I'll go invite her out right now. Please wait a moment." "Who could be so generous? Is it the boss?" Everyone whispered amongst themselves. Soon, the door was pushed open by a waiter, and Tongming, dressed in a white suit, stepped into the room. As soon as everyone saw her, they were shocked. Especially the people from Glory. They immediately lowered their heads, too afraid to look at her. I was wondering who it was. "So it's our superstar Tang." When my team left, they didn't even say a word. "So, I've come to send them off today," Tongming said with a smile. "Consider it a token of my appreciation as the previous boss." "Miss Tang, you're too polite." The editor continued to laugh. In reality, the alcohol had kicked in. "Since we've gone through thick and thin together, I would like to propose a toast to everyone from Glory. I wish you all the best in the future." After speaking, Tongming grabbed a glass of champagne from the waiter and downed 3 glasses in a row. Of course, now that you've arrived at Springfall, don't jump ship. After all, you've already joined a big agency in the country. Where else can you jump ship to? When I left the agency, I didn't even have time to pack my belongings, so I've packed them up for everyone. After all, Glory doesn't keep trash. "Miss Tang, are you purposely trying to be sarcastic?" The scriptwriter of Parasite asked angrily. "Everyone, I think I've already done my best. After all, I didn't hand this matter over to the courts. If I were to use force, I'm afraid Parasite would have to wait 3 years before it sees the light of day again. All I have to do is return the compensation fee, refuse to pay any compensation, and ask the courts to mediate, and they will forever be part of Glory. Leaving is just a matter of lifting my butt, but the price has to be paid." Tongming laughed. "Of course, I don't want to keep trash around. After all, I still have a relationship with them. As long as they abide by their responsibilities, I won't take them to the courts. I hope everyone knows what to do. If you continue to be unjust, you'll be doomed." Chapter 1125. To put it simply, Tongming's contract with Glory hadn't been terminated yet. So wasn't Parasite a little too hasty in using these people? Even if they wanted to poach people, they should at least wipe their asses clean before leaving. Yet, they were acting so high profile right now. Who are they looking down on? "This meal is on me. Have a good time and enjoy yourselves. Consider it a small token of my appreciation." I won't say much else, but I don't think the crew of Parasite should celebrate too early. After all, who knows if my fate will be the same as yours in the future. After saying this, Tongming smiled as she handed her glass to the waiter and turned around in a domineering manner. The people from Glory lowered their heads the entire time because they felt guilty on their conscience. Tongming had spent so much effort on them, yet now they had all betrayed her. Anyone in her position would be furious, right? That's enough. Let's not spoil the mood because of a woman. Let's continue drinking. During this time, the crew raised their glasses in an attempt to lighten the atmosphere. But this made the scriptwriter of Parasite place his gaze on the people from Glory with a questioning look. Although I've had a few drinks, I can understand what Tongming is trying to say. In other words, you haven't officially terminated your contract with Tongming, and she has no intention of terminating it. So, everything you're doing is illegal, right? That, if Parasite is successfully completed and Tongming goes to court, the film won't be able to be released, right? The people did not respond. This wasn't what they wanted. Who knew that Tongming had a trick up her sleeve? Ha ha! After hearing this, Baijuni couldn't help but laugh out loud. It's not that the other party had a trick up their sleeves. It's a contract. You guys broke the contract first and took advantage of Chun Chio's money. That's why you're asking the other party to be kind to you. By Juni, whose side are you on? The scriptwriter asked arrogantly. I'm not on anyone's side. If you're so capable, then settle their contract. After speaking, Bai Juni stood up from his chair and left the boring meal. He never expected that Tongning would be the one to cause trouble. Although there was no way to change the fact that Parasite had been created, she still wanted Springfall's staff to suffer along with her. Not long after, this incident was reported on the internet and newspapers by the reporters. If one were to say that Tongning was taking revenge, it wouldn't be considered as revenge. As the previous boss, it was obviously a decent thing for her to treat them to a farewell party. But for some reason, the audience felt that Tongning was too ruthless. Firstly, it was to vent his anger. Secondly, it was to remind the production team of Parasite not to be so arrogant. Thirdly, it was to curb the development of the Glory team. If you do this, don't blame me for doing the same. If poaching someone from Hyrule was that easy, then was there still a need for rules in the industry? Isn't Tongning's slap a little too beautiful? Not only did he discuss the team from Parasite, he also displayed his magnanimity and disdain towards the Glory team. If it was just a business relationship, it wouldn't be a big deal if the team jumped ship. But Tongning was the one that brought the Glory team up, so it's understandable that she's angry. You're all focused on post-production, but I'm focused on whether the Ant Queen 2 will never see each other again. But after doing what she did, Tongning did not just sit around. She took all the resources she had for the Ant Queen 2 and headed to Private Island to look for Qiao Sen's daughter. I found a lot of sci-fi films in my father's study room. Let's go through them and see if they'll be of any use to the Ant Queen 2. I've already looked through the script, and the story is perfect. With the addition of a martial arts superstar, the foreigners will definitely be impressed. But what do you plan to do with post-production? Miss Qiao asked as she put down the documents in her hands. Now that Parasite has caused so much trouble for you, how do you plan to deal with it? I've already dealt with the team that was poached by Springfall, so they're a little hesitant to take action. As long as they're afraid, that's all that matters. I'm currently searching for some prodigies online. I think we might be able to make use of them. Are you saying that we're not looking for professional post-production experts, but computer geniuses? Miss Qiao asked curiously. Of course, there are other requirements as well. For example, we need people who are good at video games or experienced programmers. That way, they'll be able to get into character faster. After all, money isn't the most important thing to them. They love a challenge and excitement. So, let's first help us solve the problem with the Ant Queen 2. Then, we'll talk about everything else in the future. Because of the betrayal of the Glory team, Tongning no longer had any plans for the long term. At least, that was how she felt about the Ant Queen. She was going to deal with the Ant Queen 2 first and reconsider when it came time for the Ant Queen 3. When that time came, there might be a new talent waiting to be discovered. Okay, let's focus on the Ant Queen 2 for now. But I need 3 months, Miss Qiao requested. Although cinematography and directing are both related to filming and have some similarities, I still need to learn. Don't worry, I can give you 3 months. Tongning knew that Miss Qiao didn't know how to direct a film, but she trusted that Miss Qiao had the heart to make a sci-fi film. Just like Qiao's son, her heart was burning with passion. So, Tongning was willing to trust her. Not long after, Tongning announced that she was forming a new team, Starlight, and was openly recruiting post-production experts. The first person to find her was a 20-year-old young man. He had just entered university, but because he had played video games since he was a child, he had learned to create a lot of scenes. However, he had never released any of them to the public because his parents didn't support it. But when he heard that Tongning was looking for talented people, he decided to give it a try and fulfill his dream. After seeing the young man's work, Tongning immediately decided to keep him. The public questioned, "Aren't you afraid that Starlight will end up like Glory? Moreover, how can these amateurs surpass professionals?" In response to the public's comments, Tongning responded, "Although Glory is talented, they can't deny my nurturing. So, it's not an exaggeration to say that if I can create Glory, then I can create another Starshine." Chapter 11:26. As for what I'm not an amateur, I'm the most amateur of them all. What Tongning meant was that professionals weren't necessarily good enough, and amateurs couldn't compare to professionals. There were plenty of experts amongst the public, but they simply didn't want to show off. Most importantly, she used herself as an example. Whether it was an actress, manager, or producer, she had always been an amateur. But what was the result? Everyone was clear to see. After hearing Tongning's response, the reporters were left speechless. After all, no one was more convincing than Tongning herself. So, did the public need to worry about how she was going to develop the Ant Queen too? There was no need. After all, no matter who suppressed her, Tongning always found a way to survive. Not long after, international martial arts superstar Old Long accepted Tongning's invitation to join the Ant Queen too. This caused a lot of fans to be excited. After all, the fact that Tongning was able to convince this man to join her was quite impressive. Parasite had a famous actor, but the Ant Queen 2 wasn't bad either. It even managed to hire an international martial arts superstar. As soon as the netizens saw this news, the internet exploded. It's been years since I've seen Old Long act cool. Haha, martial arts against a mutated monster. This is going to be fun. I wonder what the Ant Queen 2's story is going to be like. I can't wait. Tongning was used to turning the tables around. It had already become a part of her daily life. Of course, competition was bound to boost the development of the sci-fi industry. But Springfall was the one that played dirty in the first place, so Tongning had no choice but to put a stop to it. However, Luce spent a lot of time investigating the previous owner of Springfall. How complicated could it be for you to spend an entire week on it? Mo Ting expressed his dissatisfaction at Luce's progress. Luce was a little surprised before he handed over the documents in his hands. I'm sorry, President. It took me quite a bit of time. Springfall was established 16 years ago. It's also a well-known company. Get to the point, I already know all this. The most important thing is this agency was established by a subordinate of the Nangong family. As you know, 22 years ago, the Nangong family was a powerful and complicated family in Beijing. It was the old CEO that sent Elder Nangong to prison. 6 years later, Qiu Jin, a subordinate of the Nangong family, established Springfall and has been biding his time. Recently, rumor has it that the eldest grandson of the Nangong family, Nangong Quan, is returning from the U.S. to take over Springfall. Nangong Quan, Mo Ting, had a slight impression of this person. Yes, he was around 5 years older than Mo Ting. When he was just 10 years old, he was already a violent thug. Apparently, he committed a crime in the U.S. and was sent to prison. Who would have thought? His sentence was already over. He was called a nouveau riche. It has been 3 years since he was released from prison. He set up a technology company in the United States and had a woman. However, that woman gave birth to a daughter for him, but she died in childbirth. Since then, he has not found another woman. President, this is the hidden message that Baijuni gave us. After hearing this, Mo Ting's expression turned a little complicated. He's already back in Beijing. He announced to the public that he's still a few days away. But I think he's already back in Beijing, Luce replied. Arrange another bodyguard for Tongning to protect her. Since he's here to seek revenge, there's nothing we can do but welcome him with open arms, Mo Ting said coldly. 20 years ago, the old man was able to send him to prison. 20 years later, I can do the same. Okay, President. Indeed, as Luce predicted, Nangong Quan did return to Beijing early. In fact, he even watched a few interesting scenes unfold in secret. For example, when Tongning caused trouble at Dynasty Hotel, this strong and muscular man with embroidered arms was extremely interested in Tongning. How could she counterattack so beautifully? Daddy, I'm sleepy, Nangong Quan's daughter said as she rubbed her eyes. Beside him, Nangong Quan's daughter rubbed her eyes and said, Can I sleep now? Nangong Quan carried his daughter in his arms, helped her wash up, and coaxed her to sleep. When he first met Mo Ting when he was younger, he simply thought the little boy was smart and serious. Who would have thought, 22 years later, he would end up marrying a wife like this? Daddy, I miss Mommy. Can I find you a new mommy? Nangong Quan asked. she will definitely treat little eggshell well. In that case, hurry up and find one for me. The extremely strong man sat by his daughter's bedside with a gentle expression. He was now the only person left in the Nangong family. Back when Elder Nangong was sent to prison, the entire Nangong family gave up everything they had in exchange for his freedom. And Elder Mo played a huge role in this. It had been a few decades. Perhaps he was getting old, so it was time to end some things early. Was he going to leave this generation's hatred for his daughter? So, the Mo family could only suffer. After coaxing his daughter to sleep, Nangong Quan continued to investigate Mo Ting's family situation. He found out that Mo Ting had 3 children. In fact, he had a pair of twins and was currently in foster care at his mother-in-law's home. What a great opportunity. Of course, Mo Ting already smelled danger ahead of time. So, whether it was the Mo family or the Tang family, he increased his security. Tongning didn't understand, so she asked Mo Ting. Only then did she find out what happened between the Mo family and the Nangong family. Grandfather didn't do anything wrong, Tongning replied. If I was in his position, I would have done the same thing and I wouldn't have regretted it. Of course, the old man didn't do anything wrong. But Elder Nangong's imprisonment caused the Nangong family to pay a heavy price. Nangong Quan's father was blackmailed, his mother was humiliated, and his uncles didn't end up well either, Mo Ting explained. So, I'm afraid Nangong Quan has returned to settle things. Have you guys met before? Yes. If it wasn't for the Nangong family, we might still be good friends, Mo Ting said as he hugged Tongning. Nangong Quan has always been a man of few words, but he has always been a ruthless character. He rarely talks, he always makes his move. I still don't think grandfather owes the Nangong family anything, but Nangong Quan does. This was the crux of the problem. When it came to hatred, no matter how many years had passed, as long as it remained in one's heart, it would eventually be unleashed. Then what does he want? Perhaps only Nangong Quan could answer her. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.